Good evening, folks. Good evening. Welcome to the Wednesday, June 24th Board of Selectmen meeting. At the beginning of every meeting, I'd like to announce that the meeting's being recorded and transmitted via cable television. And we start every meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. We're going to have a flag up here, I think. There we are. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to welcome everybody. Tonight we have a panel to talk about the traffic study done by Beta Engineering. Now, from the town, we have our DPW Director, Andrew Lafferty, our town engineer, Charlie Richter, and our Chief of Police, David Breen. From the Mass DOT, we have Michael Karras and Dave Greenberg. And from Beta Engineering up front here, we have Ken Protralia, wait a minute, and Justin Kurwitz. So we're going to start it out, the Beta's going to start out with a presentation for the group here to talk about their study. And once they go over that, then we can do the question and answers afterwards. So if everybody would just be patient, and I'll turn it over to Ken. Ken, welcome.
Thank you. This is my cue to let the technician know that we're getting ready to start, and he can turn the presentation onto the screen. So first of all, thank you for coming tonight. I know this project is important to everybody. I hope that you'll give us a chance to finish, and what we'll do is we'll have a question and answer period afterwards. Can everyone hear me? No. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay, that's what we'll do. Okay, so first of all, we conducted this study. We really did most of it in the winter. In fact, we had the joy of walking around the streets and sidewalks in that freezing February weather. We really enjoyed that. So let's go to the next slide. Okay, this is just showing you the study area, and I'm going to hold this up like this. So what we did was we looked along Walnut Street, and that's not really showing up. Okay, so we looked along Walnut Street, and we looked at predominantly six intersections. The three you see circled in red are signalized intersections. That's Walnut Street, at Salem Street, and at the two ramps from 95. And then the yellow intersections are Sparhawk and Blue Jay and Gianna, and those are three unsignalized intersections. And we had different goals looking at each of those. So we'll go on from there. So here are our study goals. Four main goals. One was to look at traffic operations. The other was to look at U-turns along Walnut Street, specifically at Sparhawk and Blue Jay and Gianna. And we have Sparhawk with an asterisk just to tell you that, and you'll see that later, but that's the only place at which we saw any U-turns during our observation periods. And then we'll look at some intersection improvements at Gianna Drive, and then we're going to look at some signage issues along Walnut Street. So one of the things we did, we started off with an origin destination study. And by that, what we do is we try to find out where people are coming from and how they're getting to a specific spot. We were asked to look and see how people were arriving to Market Street, and these are the results. And I think what's interesting, without getting into too many of the details, there was almost nothing coming from the three unsignalized intersections. And if you look at the three approaches to Market Street, one coming from the north, one coming along 128, and the other coming from the south. They're basically a third each, within a couple of points. So that's just to let you know where the traffic is coming from to Market Street. So traffic analysis was one of the things we looked at. There was concern about some of the operations at these three intersections. There were recently some updates, and we took those updates as our existing conditions. And from there, based on observations and some analyses, we tried to see if we could find a way to improve the operations. And I'm going to let Justin talk about that.
Thank you, Ken. So just looking, I'm going to walk you through the phasing. For those that aren't familiar with the area, the new and improved phasing that was instituted back in October of 2014. You'll see that there's the three intersections here. Walnut Street at Salem Street is the one to the far right. The one right after the I-95 overpass is the one with the I-95 northbound ramps. And the third intersection to the far left is Walnut Street and Salem Street.
I'm sorry, excuse me. Do we have pictures of these in our pamphlets, by any chance?
As far as the phasing, there's not in the report.
Okay, if you just let us know, because I'm kind of flipping through it, trying to see if I can find that picture, so.
Okay.
Let us know if there is that picture in here, that would be great.
Sure.
Thank you.
So at Market Street and Salem Street during phase one, you'll see there's the southbound left and protected left. And the difference between, I'm going to refer to protected left and permitted left. A protected left is when you get the green arrow. That means that you have no other conflicting movements. The permitted left, when I refer to that, that means the green ball when you see kind of the five-section signal head where you have the green arrow, then it turns to the green ball. That just means you're allowed to take turns, to take left turns, but there's oncoming traffic coming with you. So you'll see that southbound at Salem Street, Walnut Street southbound has the protected movement both through and left. At the I-95 ramps, you have a through movement northbound and a right turn overlap coming off the I-95 ramps. And at Walnut Street and Market Street, you have the southbound through and the protected left coming southbound. During phase two, you still have the protected movement coming southbound and the northbound, but there's the northbound left into Market Street that is permitted now. At the intersection with the 95 ramps from northbound, you have northbound and southbound traffic going at the same time with the addition of the permitted left turn southbound onto I-95 northbound. And at Market Street and Walnut Street and Salem Street, you have the southbound and northbound movements going with both permitted left turns, both northbound and southbound. With it in phase three, Walnut Street at Market Street, you now switch over to the protected phase. The left turns into the Market Street, and also the northbound phase through the intersection goes. The ramps from 95, you have the northbound and southbound, and it continues at the same, along with Walnut and Salem Street. Those two intersections during this phase stay the same as they were before. The fourth phase, now you feature the I-95 southbound ramps into Market Street and the left turn going southbound. That's the only phase allowed there during this phase. Southbound at the I-95 northbound ramps, the southbound through and southbound protected left go. And then Salem Street eastbound, the through and the left turn are both protected movements. And finally, the last phase is Market Street traffic exiting, both left, through, and right. And the southbound ramps coming off are through and left, and those are all under permitted phases. The 95 northbound ramps, they both go off on phase 5. They both have protected movements, both left and right. And Salem Street now operates, both Salem Street approaches go with the permitted left turns in both directions. So we looked at two different alternatives to see based on.
Actually, in the field, we looked at a lot of alternatives. I just want to add that in the field, we looked at a lot of things that just based on observation, that we had a discount. That Justin's going to talk about that we felt were worth at least trying to do some analysis and see if they would help.
Well, out there on the coldest day of the year, we saw different things. We walked through the entire corridor, looking for any which way, any kind of signal operation that could improve the operations throughout the whole corridor and the coordination. The first of the two alternatives that we settled on to look at that we really thought could impact that and improve it. The first one was to make the left turn out of Market Street protected to go along for safety, so that the vehicular traffic coming off the southbound ramps, it conflicts with that because it's only a permitted phase. Changing that into a protected left turn phase. We did the analysis on that, and the proposed change would degrade the level of service for all the approaches at that intersection. So we decided to not recommend that. The second alternative we looked at was making the Market Street southbound left a protected only, where today existing it's a protected at the beginning, and then you'll notice it turns to that green ball and you can still make the turns permitted. We proposed to, or we looked at the analysis to make it a protected only movement where you wouldn't have the permitted phase afterwards. And that would, in the PM, that degraded the level of service from the overall level of service at the intersection from level of service D to level of service F, which, if you can imagine a any kind of school rating where A is your best and F is your worst. So those are the two alternatives we looked at in the traffic signal analysis. As it operates, both of those we did not recommend to do. We feel that the existing operation out there is at its optimum, and we'll talk about our recommendations a little later on in the presentation.
So we said one of the goals was to look at U-turns along Walnut Street intersections. And I think I mentioned earlier, there were 3 intersections we looked at. These show the results of counts we did. We actually we hired a firm to do traffic counts, and we asked them to pay specific attention to U-turns at those 3 streets.
Ken, just this is actually figure 4. If you're looking at the report, there should be a figure in here, figure 4. It shows the U-turns and these peak hour counts for U-turns.
That is figure 5?
Oh, sorry, yeah, yep, sorry, I apologize for that, it's figure 5.
So anyway, during our traffic count period, we took a morning peak from 7 to 9, an afternoon peak from 4 to 6. We saw no U-turns at either of the other 2 streets. And here at Sparhawk, we saw 2 during the morning 2-hour peak and 5 during the PM 2-hour peak. And we do want to say that this is what we've got from the official counts. We did spend a lot of time out there observing, and we just didn't see much of this. Now, I know that this has been an issue for people, and it was, important enough that we were asked to pay particular attention to it. But I think the signing that has gone up since the last time that this was an issue, and that signing was up when we made our observations, I'm guessing that signing has done some good because we just didn't see any of this. We did look specifically at Sparhawk. In case anybody did think this was still an issue, we didn't want to ignore it. We tried to look at some possible treatments to help that. The problem with Sparhawk, aside from the U-turns, is just normal traffic coming out of there has a very difficult time actually entering the traffic stream. You're probably all familiar with that as you come out to Walnut Street. If you look to your left, you see a mound that really blocks. I'm sorry, Gianna. Yeah. No. What are you saying?
That was Gianna.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. So we're looking at Sparhawk, and we did try to see how we could make sure those U-turns didn't happen. So one thing we looked at was putting delineators along the center of Walnut Street, and what that would do was it would make it impossible to take lefts in or out of that intersection. Now, all of these things that we're going to present, these options, they have some pluses, they have some minuses. Obviously, this is going to restrict turns in and out of Sparhawk because of the delineators. It will do the job of preventing U-turns, but I believe it would also divert traffic onto Blue Jay because that would be the only way some people would be able to get out, because they wouldn't be able to come out and take a left. They wouldn't be able to take a left in. They'd probably go to Blue Jay. So we think there'd be some traffic diversion there. We also looked at taking delineators and putting them along the center line of Sparhawk. And what we get here, again, pluses and minuses. This would restrict U-turns. But what's going to happen is, again, you have two residential properties right at the corners there, and they wouldn't be able to have the kind of access they want to get in and out of their drives and get to Walnut Street. And again, it would divert traffic. This is another idea we had, which was instead of putting something in the middle, try to narrow the road on each side. The idea of doing that would to make it difficult or really impossible for someone to make a quick U-turn. It would have to be like a 3-point U-turn, as opposed to now where you can really just make it in one swing. And by doing this, again, we're restricting the ability to take U-turns. We are, in this scheme, maintaining access to Walnut Street for those two properties that border Walnut Street. And the problem with this one is that it's going to allow people who want to take U-turns to come in and use those private driveways to make the U-turns now. So that's a deficiency there. And finally, what we looked at was, instead of the delineators, we looked at putting in a median, that green median. So that's a raised island. And that would really have the same effect as the delineators, except that with the delineators, they wouldn't last that long. They'd be disrupted by, plowing in the winter, as opposed to this, which would be more permanent. But it's got the same issues. And the most important issue I see here is, the two property owners at the end of the street being able to get in or out of there the way they'd want to. These are basically the schemes we came up with. And I guess I just want to emphasize that while it may have been a problem in the past, it doesn't seem to be now. And if I had to make a choice myself, I think I would leave things as they are. But we did end up recommending one of these schemes if we were going to do something. So it's a trade-off. You'd have to think about whether or not absolutely making sure no U-turns happen there, even though we don't seem to see them now, against the impacts to some of the residents. Okay, now we're at Gianna Drive, and I was ahead of myself before, but here's where we have the problem with people arriving at Walnut Street, trying to take a left turn or even a right turn, and as you look to your left, there's a big mound. It's impossible to see anybody coming. There is a flashing light when people are exiting. You can see on the left that light starts to flash when people hit a detector. So it's a warning to people. But I'll tell you, I've done it myself. It didn't seem to do much good. I didn't see people slowing down. Go back. We didn't do an actual speed study there, but I did a little car following on my own. And by car following, when I was out there, I waited for a car to come in either direction, and I followed it, and I stayed the same distance behind it. So I was simulating the speed of the vehicle in front of me. And these vehicles in this area, in spite of the poor sight distance, they're doing in the 40 to 45 mile an hour range. So that's an issue. And further complicating this, that's not working. What's that? Yeah, I didn't. No, see, it's not showing on the screen. Just north of that, you can see another driveway at the residence, and that's in the upper right-hand corner. What you're seeing to the left is the Gianna Drive, and what you're seeing to the right is that's actually a residence, right? So that makes it all the more complicated because it's another what we call a conflict point.
And the final thing that our study goal was to look at some of the signage out there, especially for the trucks. Right now, there's a truck exclusion sign on Walnut Street, south of Salem Street. And through our traffic counts, we did notice that there's still 1% of trucks, or approximately 8 trucks per hour, that enter Walnut Street, south of Salem Street. So one of the things we looked at was how can we improve the signage out there from what's out there now to what's out there in the side streets, what's out there on Walnut Street, and also onto the highway, I-95 Route 128. So these are some of the existing signages that's out there existing today. You'll see on Walnut Street southbound, just past Market Street, it says no trucks no trucks Walnut Street south of Salem Street. That's a worded sign. These are exactly how they appear out there. There's an existing sign on the northbound off ramp to Walnut Street that says the same thing. On either side of, or either approach of Salem Street entering the intersection, approximately 1,000 feet back and 500 feet back, there's the diagrammatic no truck signs. And then at the actual intersection southbound on the opposite side of the intersection, you'll see the 2.5 ton or over no truck sign there. In addition, there's the right lane ends. There's a merge just past the intersection on Walnut Street southbound. As you enter the intersection, you have 2 lanes southbound, and then once you get through the intersection, it's a sharp merge point right there, and to get into 1 lane.
And point out that it says it's the left turn.
The sign out there right now says right lane ends. In taking a ride through it and seeing traffic observed through there, it's more of a left lane ends where the left lane kind of just disappears. So having a right lane ends out there is a little misleading, where the right lane thinks that they have to merge, and yet the left lane is the actual lane merging. So some of our proposed signage here, you'll see some of the signs are in green leaders and some are in red. The green leaders means that they exist now and they'll be staying there. The red ones are all the ones that we're proposing to add. The first one that you'll see southbound on Market Street, the one that just had the all wordage sign, we propose to put the new diagrammatic sign with the supplemental plaque saying south of Salem Street to really catch the truckers' attention, and then tell them exactly where it is rather than having them get off the highway or come down Walnut Street or exit Market Street and say, I have to read all this and then continue on. And we propose the same type of signage on the I-95 southbound off-ramp, just as you get to the intersection, just to alert the drivers looking to head south on Walnut Street. At both approaches, you'll see the same thing where we added the plaque on Salem Street, the south of Salem Street, and on the eastbound approach too, just adding them to the existing signs out there. We're keeping the existing sign with the 2.5 or ton or over at the intersection. And in terms of the left lane ending and the merge point, we're proposing to install the left lane end sign up at the top there prior to the intersection when you're 2 lanes, and then after the intersection, the diagrammatic, which is just the symbol sign that kind of alerts people that the left lane is the one that ends and you have to merge into the right lane. And then in addition, there was some talk of intersection blocking with all the queuing with the traffic signals through the intersection. One of our proposed signs, or our proposed signage alternatives here, is to install do not block the intersection signs on all approaches at the intersection to alert drivers that they should not be going in there, and that they should stop at the stop line, wait for the appropriate gap to cross. And I believe that there has been additional curb cuts put in, or the police will have more areas to enforce. And obviously, we want to keep the enforcement as best we can, but there is a need throughout the town. So any additional enforcement that can be pushed here is would be ideal, but we understand the town and that, trying to find the appropriate enforcement. So some of our study-wide traffic operations, our recommendations, we recommend to maintain the existing traffic signal phasing and timing. It seems to be running as optimal as possible here. So at all three intersections with the coordination set now with the traffic that's out there, we recommend to maintain the existing. As far as Walnut Street and Sparhawk Drive, we're recommending to install a raised median island for approximately 50 feet at the mouth of the intersection on Sparhawk Drive. One possible consideration is to start with the delineators and see how that works, rather than start with something that's permanent and then switch at that point. Start with the delineators, and then if that's a solution that the residents and the town are okay with, then you can go to the more permanent with the raised median island.
Yeah, this is a little deceiving. When we say we're recommending, frankly, what we'd rather see is not to do any of these improvements. But if we were asked to do one, this is the one that we thought was the best of some that, frankly, we just don't think are necessary. So for our money, we just as soon keep it as it is.
And as far as study-wide signage, this is just kind of a summary of what I just talked about, where we're going to replace the existing truck exclusion signage on Walnut Street. We're going to add the diagrammatic signs and the plaques that say south of Salem Street at multiple approaches. And the other part was to coordinate with MassDOT as far as trying to get signage on the actual highways, both directions, I-95 northbound and southbound. But as far as the truck exclusion signage and throughout the study area, these were our findings. And then Walnut Street at Salem Street, again, the do not block the intersection signage, increased police enforcement, and also taking care of the southbound lane merge with the left lane ends and the diagrammatic left lane sign. So that's our presentation.
Well, I want to point out one thing. If you notice, we talked about improvements at Gianna Drive, and we did not come up with a recommendation. We think this is a bigger fix than could be addressed in this study. This was a small traffic study. Frankly, I think if we're going to look at anything to do with Gianna Drive, it's going to take an engineering study with survey to actually look and see if any improvements are actually practicable. In particular, that mound, when we were out there in particular, there was snow and we couldn't even see how big it is. But we've been out there since, and it's significant. So any kind of improvement there is going to take some kind of fix by cutting that mound back some way. And again, that's a real engineering design project as opposed to something that we could address in this study. So with that, we're open to any questions.
Hold on, before we do that, do we have a microphone or something for people out here so we can get them on the tape? I just want people at home to be able to hear what you're asking, so they don't just hear an answer. Folks, if you could raise your hand when you have a question, they'll bring the microphone to you. Yeah, unless we have to come up to the edge here and use that microphone, I'm going to see what we need to do. If you can tell, we got some growing pains going on here. It's our first selectmen's meeting in this room, so we're still working it out. But if you just wait till the microphone's available, and we'll start that.
It's coming. It's not a PA mic. It will allow the viewers at home to hear better, but if they want to be heard, they need to speak up.
Okay. Okay, do we have a mic coming out? Okay, so we'll just pick one at a time. Jim, go ahead. Just state your name and your address.
Ann Mitchell, 2 Fernway. I had a question. You mentioned on the sequencing of the signaling, and at one point when you were talking about the Salem Street, Walnut Street intersection, I believed you talked about it. Your recommendation was to keep it the same because it would be going from a D rating to an F rating. I want to make sure I heard that correctly. And then I'm curious to know how you rated, the signaling for all of the lights sections in that area at Market Street.
Well, you did hear correctly. Like I said earlier, we looked on 2 levels. We made observations to see if we thought things would help, and we discounted those. The 2 that we looked at, we did traffic analysis. It's called level of service analysis. And what it does is it takes as input, we put in the volumes, we put in the intersection geometry, and we put in signal phasing and timing, and we get, as Justin explained, we get a qualitative value of A through E or F. And it's very much like a report card. A is the best, that means the fewest delays. You get down to E or F, you have the greatest delays, and when you get to F, what you're saying really is that and not only is it busy, but there are external, factors that are affecting the intersection. Normally, in peak periods where we have congested areas, we look at level of service D as being what we try to at least get. We try to stay away from D and E. I'm sorry, from E and F. So by doing this, when we did the analysis that Justin described, we came up where it was level of service D, which was at that kind of acceptable level. It went to F, which is not acceptable, and that's how we did all the analysis.
Just so I'm clear, you're saying it's acceptable for that peak time period? I'm just trying to understand what the ratings are. Obviously, to me, I'd rather have it be A, B, or C, but I'm just trying to understand sort of what the D means.
Well, D is generally what's accepted, and this changes depending where you are. It's during peak periods. But in some areas where you have consistent traffic during the day, you might get level of service D all day, and that would be the same thing. It would be like the minimum acceptable. Now I say minimum acceptable. Sometimes, if you're in Manhattan doing level of service analysis, if you can get an E, you're happy. But around here, we generally look at D as a minimum level.
Ken, just to clarify that, could you just tell her what D means? I know it's minimal acceptable. What does it mean? Is there a certain wait time or something that you use as a gauge?
Yeah, the D, we're going from 30, what's that? No, I think what we're saying is we're going from 35 to 50 for D. That's what we have is level of service. See, it changes if we're looking at signalized versus unsignalized. From if you get delay of 0 to 10 seconds, that's A. If you get from 11 to 11 to, I don't have those memorized. But there's a gradation, and it's all based on how much the delay is. Mike, do you remember what the does anybody from that table remember?
I think E's in the 50s.
Yeah, D's in the 50s. Yeah.
E's in the 50s, C's in the 30s, and then S 60s,
Right.
F 70s.
That's for signalized intersections.
So it's every 10 seconds is a letter?
No, it's
basically?
not every 10 seconds.
But it sounds like it's close to that.
Yeah.
We have another question? Sure, go ahead. Wally?
Hi, Wally McKenzie, 4 Debston Lane. So some of these are the questions that I had asked be answered before the study was started. So, and you've answered partially, the counts that were made, or the counts that you looked at, are they representative even though they were in February?
They were, we did some factoring for seasons.
Okay. And is it, and this was back before they hired you, we had asked for the definitions of C, D, E, and F. So if somebody could follow up and possibly post these on the town website, that would be appreciated, because this had been asked before. We would like to know what the current level is at each one of those points. And also, because when this was proposed by VHB said that at a minimum, this would be brought from an F to a C at when this whole project was completed. So if we're now hearing that these are at a D level, the other question that we asked is, what level will they be at, when the planned village development district, which is Market Street, is fully occupied? Because back in February, it was only 57 or 60% occupied. So we just want to know whether it will continue to be at is it ever going to get to a C, or will it degrade when 40% more traffic is involved? And then finally, which Sparhawk, Gianna, Blue Jay alternatives do the selectmen recommend? And also, has town council had an opportunity to look at these alternatives to see whether they're legal, so that the residents there don't wind up, as they did last year, finding out 20 minutes before there was the vote that it was the town council ruled that they were illegal. So I'd appreciate it if you want to take each of those. Thanks.
No, I didn't write them down, but go ahead. Why don't you talk about the,
I'll take the selectman question.
Okay.
yeah.
So these figures that I'm going to show you here, these are kind of our resource slides. They exist in the report and some of the tables in the back. These are just more for presentation and clarity. So these are the existing. What we did was we took two different scenarios. The existing 2014, the counts that we took in December of 2014. These are what you'll see here, and we factored in the growth, and then the growth from what's out there right now at Market Street here, what has been built. That was factored into these, or in the existing counts here. So we took anything that wasn't built yet, and those will be in the proposed. So this is the existing, the 2014. So you'll see these.
Let me
These.
clarify that. So if the development was 60% complete, we factored in the additional 40%.
So the existing is just this. When you go to the build 2017, we call it build because that's the final build out. So that's factoring in what's going to be built here, the remaining percentage, and where the trips enter in. So this is what you're going to see in 2017. And as you can see here, just looking at we'll go intersection by intersection. Walnut Street and Market Street. In the existing right now, you have C and C at level of service for the peak periods. You'll see the yellow there is the morning peak, and the blue is the PM peak. And then in the build, you'll have the same level of service, so that should not change in between now and when the final build out is. Looking at the 2014 existing, at the intersection with the 95 northbound ramps, you have B and D, and then it goes to B and E. So your PM degrades once this is built out, and that's part of the reason we were looking at some of the traffic coordination and trying to improve that the best we can to eliminate any kind of E's that we have. But this is one that's going to be at E. And then Walnut Street at Salem Street, it's C and D in the existing, and it goes to D and D. Oh, so the morning peak hour is the only one that goes from C to D. The other one will stay the same. And then the remaining three intersections, both in the AM and PM, and both in the existing and the build out, are all A's. So they operate with no problems.
How do you determine the build out, that number?
So we have the existing report for the build out here, and based on what was built, what had been built, and what was phase 1 and phase 2 of the project, we factored out what numbers were already built, and then took and subtracted out the remaining stuff and added that in as trips to the counts that we had, the counts we did in December 2014. added those trips, added the growth for the 3-year period based on the initial report.
Let me just simplify this a little bit, because we had a little complication with the fact that we had to deal with the build-out. But just normally what happens, when we do traffic counts, that represents the existing condition. We do some factoring depending on the season, things like that, but essentially, that's existing traffic. Then we try to we forecast to a no-build condition. And if we're forecasting to a development that's going to be done in 5 years, then what we do is we look at historical data, and we might see that over the most recent several years, traffic has been growing at 1% per year. And that's just general background traffic. It has nothing to do with any major specific developments. So what you might then do is say, okay, if we were at this level in 2010 and 2015, we're going to factor them up by an additional 5%, and that's going to be our no build. That means what's going to happen 5 years from now if the project we're looking at isn't built. Then for our build, we then go ahead and say, okay, now we're going to take that no build and add the traffic that comes from any major development or major transportation change, and then that becomes the future build condition.
So just one follow-up question. So VHB did, millions of dollars were spent on this study, so they said that this was going to be a C level. So, and you may not be able to answer this, but where did they go wrong?
They didn't necessarily go wrong. In fact, I'm sure they didn't. They're a qualified firm. They do good work. It's just the nuances of traffic volumes, and frankly, of the level of service criteria. So, for example, we can tell you that from 0 to 10 seconds delay is level of service A. So we might have 10 seconds delay, we call that level of service A. In the process of redoing a calculation, maybe someone, rounds off differently. It might go to 11 seconds. So it's changed by 1 second, and it's gone from level of service A to a level of service B. So engineering is not an exact science, and I'm going to say that if we took 5 traffic engineers to do the same analysis, there were going to be some differences here and there. So I don't think it's actually a big change.
Someone out back have a question there?
My name is Samir Shah. I'm from 10 Alexandra Road. And what I'm wondering is, the 2 gentlemen who did the presentation, have you seen currently the state of the traffic, especially 7 to 8 o'clock in the morning and 5 to 6 o'clock in the evening? Because if you had, you'd realize some of your presentation is kind of obsolete. There's 3 major hazards going through that. You make a left turn from Salem into Walnut Street. The green arrow is there. Needs to be a little bit longer, but still it's sufficient. But we have cars coming southbound that block the intersection, and you can't even make a left turn. The other problem you have is when you're going northbound underneath the overpass to make a left to get on 128, people are racing to beat the arrow, and there's going to be a head-on collision. And then your third problem is when you're coming out of Market Street to make a left turn, there's cars coming southbound from the ramp and coming through the light, but then your light turns green. So now you don't know whether to wait to let the car go in or do you make a left. And I've seen many instances where there's very close instance of head-on collision. So what I would ask you guys, and what I'm asking is, are you planning to do another survey to represent the current state of the traffic at this point?
Well, we did our study a few months ago, so I don't think that it's fair to say it's not current. We observed some things that we saw as problems, and that's why we did try to improve the condition. But tried as we might, everything we did ended up being worse. Now, there's a certain amount of traffic. You have a certain amount of lanes, unless someone is gonna do some major widening so that we can add lanes. This is the best we could do with what we had.
Well, but sir, it's a public safety. It's just a matter of time. There's gonna be an accident. Remember when we were asking for a green arrow to make a left on 128 southbound? There was an accident, and that's when the state and the town finally decided to put a green arrow. Do we have to wait for another head-on collision before you guys make that adjustment to that? I mean, I don't understand. You're trying to deflect and say, somebody has to take on onus and responsibility. I think the onus is on the town and the state. I'm telling you, the public safety from the town residents, I would think that would be the number one concern for everyone in the room.
Well, let me just step on that for a second. That has a lot to do with our talks with the Mass DOT. Their study and what we're doing with Mass DOT do go together, but we also know some of the issues up there. I met with Mr. Karras just last week, and we sat down and talked about some of those issues. So, you know, what we're going to talk about for recommendations and fixes with the Mass DOT come off of this report, but the report obviously doesn't, you know, my biggest pet peeve is that left coming out of Market Street. I think that's you know, that needs to be adjusted, and we talked about that at our last traffic study meeting. And so that's going to be addressed, and we have some gentlemen over here that will speak to that later on. So if we can just keep this on their study alone, we'll talk about some of those fixes in a few minutes, okay?
Okay.
All right. No, we know those exist, and we're going to address them. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Nancy DeMarco, Sparhawk Drive. I perhaps did not understand the delineators. I wonder if you could clarify. It was my understanding that leaving Sparhawk and getting on Walnut Street with a delineator there would be no left turn. Is that when you mentioned Blue Jay? I perhaps am mistaken about that. Also, how do you intend, if you do narrow Sparhawk, what do you do? Do you build in the sidewalks? I don't know. And my third comment is, your U-turn study was done in February. To my recollection, the snow was at least 6 feet high at the bottom of the street. I don't think accurately your U-turn chart is correct. How many people made a U-turn then? I don't know. I don't think it's current enough. And if you would address those things, I'd appreciate it, please.
Well, see, as far as the U-turns, all I can say is we made observations at the time. We didn't even see it attempted. And that, you know, that coincided with what our traffic counting experts saw. When we got the results from our traffic counting expert, we called and said, did you, because we saw 0 U-turns at 2 of the intersections, and we asked, you know, did you look for, he said, yeah, we looked for them, they just didn't happen. So I can't explain why, you know, we can only tell you what we see.
Ken, she's saying the time of year, and with snowbanks, which is already narrowing the area, you don't have the traffic flow in that time of year.
But
So was there any adjustments made for the time of year?
As far as that U-turn?
Or you just looked at what you observed for 2 U-turns?
Right, but I
Yeah.
tried to make the U-turn and I couldn't.
Yeah, okay.
But the counts are actually taken in December. It wasn't February. There was no snow on the ground. All these pictures you no, the counts were not done December 26th. That was the observations. The counts were done the 15th of December.
Let me just say one thing.
Hey, Bob, get the mic and introduce yourself, and thank you.
Bob Casoli, I live on Sparhawk Drive. Just let you know, today, between 4:30 and 5:30, 18 vehicles turned around there. The problem is, and I agree with you, it's an easy solution. Once people start making the turn, they're already been into the turn. The sign is too far in. They don't see it. It's a very easy solution. Put a barrel out there, fill it with concrete, put a sign, no U-turns. You'll eliminate the U-turns. The problem is you just kick the problem into someone else's driveway, or you kick the problem down the street. Changing the whole area and putting those delineators, you're going to lose the whole aesthetics of what Linfield's all about. You're going to have those down the middle of the street, People are whipping down that street 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. Guess what you're gonna hear? All the way down the street. So, look, be honest with these people. Tell them the truth.
Try to remember that we didn't recommend that,
No,
okay?
but you recommended Sparhawk as a one-way down, which I agree. And I spoke to Phil on this. I agree, that might be a good solution. Make Sparhawk one-way down. But you gotta try
We
something.
didn't recommend that,
I thought it was in your report.
no.
That was,
So what's the recommendation for Sparhawk or Blue Jay?
What we said was, we didn't see it as a problem. So our recommendation, you know,
Come down there with me tomorrow and stay 1 hour with me.
Yeah.
Tell me you don't see a problem there.
well, we've done that. I mean,
No, you did it in December.
excuse me, just let me finish. We've done that when there was no snow on the ground, okay? We've been out there. I can only tell you what we saw, okay? And, you know, we didn't go out there for 5 minutes and say, okay, there's no problem. Our observations were in addition to what the traffic counter saw. So I just want to make that clear. We didn't drive by there and say, oh, no one's doing a U-turn now, so they don't do it.
Problem
That's
is,
all we can go
the
by.
study is gonna be in the summer months.
well, we have to take the information that they have from the time they did the study, and then we'll talk with the Mass DOT and our town DPW about what we can
So
do to
who
fix
directed
what the
them to
problem
do the
is.
study in December?
Excuse me?
Who directed Beta to do the study in December?
The direction came after the last traffic meeting to do the study.
In December? You think that's a good time to do a traffic study? November, December?
It was a busy time of year, right, when he did the study.
Excuse me, actually, Bob, I was at the meeting when we first met with Beta, and I think you were in the front room, Mr. Lafferty, and Bill Gustus was still on board with the town. This count wasn't supposed to happen until this summer
No one told us that.
because of the winter months, because it wouldn't be a true, an accurate picture of the number of cars used in that area. Now, that's what we discussed
no
when
one
I was
told-
there in that room.
No one told us that.
Were you in the room that?
I don't
believe
know
you
what
were
meeting
there.
you're talking about.
Did you come to town hall initially back in, I believe it was September or October? I'll get the exact dates. if we
The
need
only
to do
meeting
that.
I had was with Charlie and Andy.
Yeah, I do recall the meeting. I don't recall a discussion that said we weren't going to do the traffic counts in the winter. We did have some discussion about when those traffic counts were being done. Early December didn't seem like a bad time. We had additional traffic due to the Christmas shopping area, so we kind of thought that may actually be skewed in the different direction, actually. So that's really one of the concerns that we had. But I don't recall specifically saying we were going to push it till the summer. I thought the intent, at least from the discussion I had with the previous administrator, was to try and get something pulled together for early spring so we could get something back to the residents.
Who's got the mic? Joe, give it to Joe. Yeah, thanks, Joe.
I am Joe Demana from Alexander Road. I disagree with some of the things that you've presented, but okay, it's a disagreement. And I understand some of the things might work. But you said in your presentation the most important thing that you could have said. You said this is a D. It's always going to be a D. There's nothing we can do about it. So what it comes down to is what you said. It comes down to enforcement. We need a traffic officer to deal with the problems in that area and other areas in town because the police department does not have enough manpower to do what they need to do.
Okay, good.
David Basile, 15 Fernway. I wanted to ask a question about Salem Street and Salem Street West by this orientation. Did you look at discontinuing the right-hand turn right on red as a possible solution to filling that intersection at Salem and Walnut?
We did not look at that. Again, that's something we'd look at, we'd consider if we looked at it and saw an issue. And we didn't see an issue out there.
Know about your traffic study, okay? And I disagree with some stuff, but on that one, you couldn't be more wrong. I work out of my house on Alexander Road. I go through that intersection 4 or 5 times a day. Last week, I waited 3 light changes to get through that intersection. That intersection is a nightmare, and one of the things that you can do to improve it is don't let people take a right on red. Guess what? I do right now. I take a right on red, and I shouldn't, because I take a right on red, the traffic's backed up, and then the left arrow coming off of Salem Street in the other direction has no place to go, and the traffic ends up stuck in the intersection. Then the people that are coming southbound, well, technically it's eastbound, down Walnut Street, now they're going around cars trying to continue through on the green light. That's, with all due respect, sir, that's a mistake.
I don't doubt that you see what you say you saw, but I can only tell you what we saw when we were out there. And you're, okay, that's all I can say.
Good evening. My name is Jim Fox. I live at 6 Hawks Lane. Maybe I misunderstood. Where are these delineators at the Sparhawk area going to go? On the Sparhawk?
We're not recommending that, so let me just get that.
Recommended an island instead. So where do
Well,
you want to put your island?
If you recall, my real recommendation was that nothing be done there.
But you
Okay.
said
We
the
looked at
recommendation that
different
you were making
things.
was an island. I want
Right.
to know where you want to put the island.
The island is just where it showed on the plan, which is coming back 50 feet.
From Walnut.
Right, right.
Well, with the delineators there, just for your information, the town put them in there, and they were removed because they blocked the driveways that both the residences sit at the end of the street. They also blocked the resident on the north side of the street from making a left-hand turn to get out of Sparhawk. So anything like that is absolutely absurd, okay? Now, I have a question on the right on red. At the last traffic meeting we had up at the high school, like junior high school, which high school I guess we're doing, I had brought up the no red on right, and it's in here in the beginning, first few pages. So I'm not sure why you fellas didn't address that. It's a serious situation, that intersection. The left arrow, as people have mentioned, to go south onto Walnut Street is absurd. It just doesn't work. The oncoming traffic gets involved. It's got to be fixed one way or another. Either it's got to be a longer arrow sequencing issues again, like we spoke of the last time we all got together on this issue. And
Mr. Fox, you talked about coming north on Salem's?
you're coming
North on
you're
Walnut,
going
take a left
actually,
on
you're
Salem?
actually going west on Salem.
Yeah.
And you're going to turn south on
Walnut?
On Walnut.
Okay.
Walnut runs north and south.
All right.
Salem east and west. Okay. Somebody said something different, but that's the facts. Also, I'm curious. The chief had mentioned at the last gathering that they were going to try to get something put out or come out somewhere else along the line. They were going to get something so the police cars could get up on the islands down there. Has anything been done with that?
Yes, I believe that's going to be addressed when we get to the next phase.
Oh, okay. Because police presence beats any other type of police work ever anywhere. There'd be no more trucks going up and down the street. It wouldn't help so much with the U-turns, but that's because it's such a wide street. I originally recommended the sidewalk being extended, and whether it would work or it wouldn't work, I don't really know. I am concerned about the signs that are there. When we talked about putting signs up to block, to stop people from shortcutting, so to speak, we used a different term at the time. Nobody has ever shortcutted from Walnut Street up Sparhawk. Yet there's signs up there that say, do not enter between 6 and 9 and 3 and 6. There's no reason to go from Walnut up that way. If you were cutting over to get to Wakefield, you'd go up Blue Jay. You wouldn't travel another quarter of a mile in traffic that is so thick that it takes forever to get off of Sparhawk. So I think those signs are unnecessary. I don't think they do a thing. And like Bob Casoli mentioned, better positioning of the no U-turn sign may help. Like I said, unless you block it somehow, people are going to be people. And at any rate, that's all I got. Have a
All right,
good
Mr.
night.
Fox, thank you. He's working his way forward.
Good evening. My name is Rich Mazzola. I'm from 14 Sylvan Circle. Um, I'm I'm concerned about what you saw and what you reported is exactly what you saw. I think the sample that you have is really faulty because it takes one sample in one universe and it's not working for the entire year. And I know it's expensive, but if we're going to do this, I think we have to be more selective about just picking one specific time. We have these peak travel times. We thought of Christmas and that being a peak, but I think if you look at right now, I bet you that now's a better time to do it. I think it's also should be done in the fall, and I think it should be done in the spring, and we need to be selective about those times. But I think it would be better, it'd be more realistic, and I think these people who live here are seeing the U-turns, and all of this is more of a safety issue more than anything else. And we really need to be very concerned about safety in this town. There's too much traffic for too small of an area. It's just a comment. Thank you.
Mark McDonough, Bork Road. I just wanted to point out, Richie's right. I think you were a little too selective. The U-turn signs, if you morning peak and evening peak, the U-turn people, you're going to get more people making U-turns when the mall is at its peak, which isn't going to be from 7 to 9. And people traveling from 4 to 6 and more commuters, I think probably you're going to have to watch Sparhawk and Blue Jay for U-turn people when the mall is doing its peak business, which is from, say, 10 to 4 and after 6. That's when the trucks are going to be delivering, and that's when customers are going to be coming to the mall and getting misdirected by their GPSs and such. So to say that you didn't see any U-turns, you obviously saw more in the afternoon than you did in the morning. Morning, again, from 7 to 9 is going to be people commuting. Nobody's going to shopping at the mall from 7 to 9. And 4 to 6 is really commuters. You did get a few more U-turn people, but I think for U-turns you need to watch, say, from 10 to 10, really, when people are trying to get to the mall and trucks are making deliveries. That's all.
Ken, what was your timetable you looked at? How long were you there for the days that you observed it?
Well, besides the traffic counting periods, when we were there probably for 2 to 3 hour periods. Not all that time at the intersections looking for U-turns. We were looking at the entire study area. But, we certainly, paid attention to them. I mean, I can't remember offhand. I couldn't tell you if we were there for a half an hour or 35 minutes or 25 minutes, but we didn't sit there for 10 minutes and say, we don't see anything.
So it wasn't a full day?
Oh, no.
Because I think that's a good point. I think, especially with the buildup of a lot of these businesses are going to be certainly nighttime establishments and midday.
It says here you were there 7 to 9, 4 to 6. That's what it says.
Yep.
Right. No, that's when the traffic counts occurred, and our traffic counting people we had someone stationed at each intersection counting U-turns. That's different from when we were out there ourselves looking. We did look during off-peak periods. But again, I'm not saying we were there for an hour each intersection.
Excuse me, I forgot to mention that you had mentioned 2 out of 3 were okay. Well, Gianna Drive, I defy somebody to make a U-turn at Gianna Drive with that island there. I defy them to do that. So it makes me almost sound like nobody ever looked at Gianna Drive to say they thought they could make a U-turn there. And Blue Jay is too narrow, and if somebody's making it, we know where they go. They're
Well,
not
that's-
doing it
that's
on
the-
Blue Jay because it's almost too narrow.
That's the point of his study. He said
Yeah.
you could narrow the road or put an island in.
Well, I understand that,
Right.
but to make the comment opening that 2 out of 3 were okay, well, yeah, we know, thank you.
Yeah.
Joyce Gray, Tedford Lane. I think there's a simple solution to Sparhawk, to be honest with you.
Say that again, please.
It's a simple solution to Sparhawk. People will not make a U-turn if you narrow out the entrance. Easy, done. What's the problem with doing that? And
Why isn't that ideal?
Well, we did narrow it.
narrow the
No, but why isn't that
entrance to
ideal?
Sparhawk by putting a wider sidewalk coming into the entrance and going out.
Why is the island? Why do you see the island? Because I think
The
those two,
island doesn't make sense.
because those two
No.
properties are negatively affected by it. It doesn't make sense.
That would be detrimental.
No, but I think you chose the
But
island, though,
make
right?
the entrance to Sparhawk narrower by widening your sidewalks on both where the walls are, you will have no problem.
We proposed that as one of our recommendations. The only issue with this is it will impact the two residents there with the driveways, where that doesn't, it's not gonna be a complete U-turn, but they'll be able to pull into the driveways, back out, and make a three-point turn. So it still does allow them to take a,
Bob, hold on. Jim? Yeah, I know. I'm just trying to give everybody a chance to ask questions.
Hi, my name is Susan Wetmore, and I live at 12 Sunset Drive in Wakefield. And I have the unique, and my neighbor have the unique advantage, or disadvantage, I would say, as being between exit 42 and exit 43. So I have seen a lot of traffic studies at both intersections, and from, just for the audience, from my point of view, they have never been what they have come up with in the traffic studies and the reality of us living there are like night and day. You're talking apples and oranges. So, maybe what we should suggest is some volunteer groups from the town to take real counts and make real numbers, and to sit there for the times that we have to sit there anyway because we can't get in and out of our homes or streets, and maybe you would take that the people, the powers to be, could really see the picture of what's happening in that intersection. Because as probably most of the people here know, we were told that there was not going to be any problems. We were going to have all these, different street, changes and everything, and it was all going to be fine. And it didn't work for the first phase. And you're still, the Market Street's still building, so it can't get any better with the current situation that's happening now. And I think everybody here would agree. So it goes without saying that this, the time of year or the time of day makes a huge difference. And for the people who are traveling, I can't go anywhere outside my street without coming through one of those intersections. And they're both horrendous at many, many times of the day. In the morning, in the afternoon, at night, and with things open later, maybe even later into the night. So, we really need more information. But that isn't actually my question. I just feel for the people here that are greatly impacted. My question is the proposal of these new signs that say exit 43 south of Salem Street. I'm not sure what that does to the truck traffic. I'm really hoping that as good neighbors, we're not sending more traffic or more trucks to come through Wakefield as opposed to coming through Linfield. But where exactly are those signs needed? I guess I get confused with the right and the left. Are they on, so could someone tell me exactly where those signs are proposed to be? Because already there are no trucks allowed on Salem Street in Linfield or Walnut Street. So
There are some.
what was the sign that you were saying?
well, it's these. It says exit 43 south, no trucks south of Salem Street, and then they were many places. Okay, so where are they going to be?
On the highway?
On 128.
That's for MassDOT coordination with the town. We're that's the second phase of this is to see, we're coordinating with MassDOT to see where they're gonna go. We're not sure, because we
Okay.
can't just put them and place them on the highway. We have to coordinate with MassDOT.
What we were suggesting was that at the existing ramps at Walnut Street, the truck drivers don't know until they're already on the ramp.
Right, but when they're on the ramp going to Market Street, they have a direct route from either north or south of 128 to go directly into the property.
That's fine if they're going that way.
Correct.
All we're saying is, they don't know until they're already in the ramp that they can't go down Salem Street. And then it's kind of too late for them. What we're suggesting is those signs And again, that's a MassDOT issue that we would coordinate with them. We're suggesting that those signs should be shown before they actually get on the ramp. So if they don't want to do that, then they can go by the exit in both directions.
Which would take them to the Wakefield exit to switch around. So that,
Depending on what direction they're going.
right, well, I'm just saying.
We're not changing any regulations. All we're doing is helping them not make the wrong decision. The regulation that they can't go south is already there. We're not changing that. We just don't want them to be in the position to find that out.
But I thought the concern was going to Walnut Street, which would be the, from 128 to Route 1 and back. No? That's the impact to Walnut Street.
Right, but they can't travel past South Street, Salem Street. They're not supposed to go, the trucks aren't supposed to be on Walnut Street past Salem Street. They don't know that until they're already on the ramp, and they can't do anything about it. Sorry. So that's all we're suggesting. We're not making any, we're not changing any regulations.
So you're saying the truck traffic is not from Market Street that you're correcting with this? Because to go to Market Street with a truck from north or south, you have a direct access.
We're not talking about just going to Market Street. What we're talking about, what we're trying to addresses the fact that there's already a regulation that trucks cannot go on Walnut Street south of Salem Street. That's all we're trying to address.
Correct. So, but they can't come off the highway. So, and they can't go left. They can't go right towards Wakefield, and they can't go straight towards Saugus. Correct. So they are forced to go left back to Route 1. So really, well, he's saying they're not. They can't.
Right.
Well, south of Salem, no trucks south of Salem is.
Salem is open to trucks.
We're talking about on Walnut Street, south of Salem Street. The trucks can't go there. It's illegal.
Well, to my knowledge, no Linfield trucking business or UPS business or Crystal Trucking is allowed to go on Salem Street in Linfield.
Mr. Chairman.
So, well, I live
Yeah,
right there.
Ma'am, hold on a second.
The question.
Chief Breen, like to address that? Folks?
Hi, ma'am. Trucks are permitted to turn right as they come off of 95 northbound, but they must either turn left or right on Salem Street. They are permitted on Salem Street in both directions, but they're not permitted
From that
Walnut
intersection.
Street, from Walnut Street, heading southbound.
See, to Wakefield or Saugus. I get confused with the north and south.
Going towards Saugus,
Yep,
the trucks must turn left or right on Salem Street.
okay.
Now, they are permitted to turn right and go into Wakefield. We have Crystal Trucking down there. And we also have UPS, some other businesses down there. And
Okay.
and also there's deliveries to the 99 restaurant. So they are permitted to turn left or right on Salem Street, heading towards Route 1 or towards Wakefield. But they're not permitted to drive through the intersection. I hope that clears that up.
So what you're really trying to prevent is the Walnut Street truck traffic.
As the gentleman just said, they're just trying to prevent an existing regulation which prohibits trucks from traveling down there. That was what they were trying to address.
Right. Okay. So, well, what I would be interested in, I think that this is misleading, this signage, if that's what you want. So that's will there be signage on Salem Street as well? Install truck exclusion signs on Salem Street as it approaches to Walnut Street, in either side.
Yes, they're already there. We're just adding a plaque to it just to let them. It just says the truck symbol, so we're adding plaque just says south of Salem Street, so that they can't go south in that direction. Once they get to the intersection, they can. If they're coming eastbound, they can go through. They can take a left, but they can't take a right.
Okay. It just
vice versa coming westbound.
so it's really, even though the sign says Salem Street, they're trying to avoid Walnut Street. I think that is kind of a misleading. But thank you.
Next question.
Hello, my name's Katie Shea. I'm just trying to summarize in my mind where we're at right now, and please correct me if I'm interpreting this wrong or incorrectly, but what I'm hearing from you is when Phase 2 is fully open at Market Street, that our major intersections, which is the exit of Market Street onto Walnut Street and the Salem Street and Walnut Street intersections, are going to get a bit worse. with the increased volume. Is that a correct assumption?
In some cases, sure.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, but they will, all of them will stay the same except for one peak hour. They will stay the same level of service.
All right, based on the data that you have, and we all can agree that that was a time slice that maybe wasn't, the sample data maybe might not have been large enough to really represent what we're all seeing. Okay, so, all right, I'm clear on that one. Now, the next thing is if something gets done on Sparhawk, there are some recommendations that you did make, but what you're saying is that we could cause a domino effect. In other words, we could close off or the intersection, make it narrower on Sparhawk, but then we're going to have individual driveways being turned around. So there could be a cascading effect, correct? Okay.
It's just pushing the issue to the driveways now, where they have to make a three-point turn instead of the clear turn.
So the other thing is, based on what I've been told about our agreement right now, is that the only exit that WS Development and National Development are advertising for from Market Street is exit 43, which is the Linfield exit. And if they were able to advertise exit 42, do you think that would enable some load balancing in traffic to alleviate some of the traffic coming on the Linfield side?
I guess, I mean, we're not marketing experts, but I would say generally if you, yeah, I'm sorry, we're not marketing experts, so I won't speak from that perspective. But what I will say is if you do advertise that there's another entrance, that there's another access point, that I would guess people would be more likely to use it.
Okay. And then I know we've accounted for phase 1 and phase 2, and this is something that is just supposition. I actually have been hearing this down at the, South Linfield Pizza Place. If there was ever a phase 3 in Marketplace, how would this would definitely adverse, or if we had additional development in this area, this would go beyond what you did your traffic study in, correct? You didn't look beyond phase 2.
No, we did not.
Thank you very much for your time.
Hi, Kristen White, 99 Salem Street, and I've made this point before, but that the intersection that we live at the corner of Hidden Valley and Salem, so again, between the two exits, right on Salem Street, and nobody thinks about where all those cars that couldn't make their U-turns are going to make their U-turns or cut through down. So everything gets pushed down towards that Salem Street Hidden Valley intersection, which is quite a difficult intersection, especially in the morning. So I just, want people to remember that it's not an isolated neighborhood, that it extends all the way out to our corner of the woods also. And I also wanted to make the point that really the biggest impact that we see, we were very concerned about Market Street, but all it takes is one accident on 128 to push Salem Street to be gridlock, and then we can't pull out. And what I don't think there's anything we can do about it, but that's all the heavy snow of February pushed we could not get out of our driveway until 10 in the morning because of the just solid line of traffic. And I do think actually possibly having a policeman at that intersection to kind of keep the flow going could make a difference. But it seems to me that's almost a worse problem than anything else that we've talked about.
Nancy Williams, 19 Alexandra. I have a few statements, and then I just have a question. It's a lifestyle retail center. People go to the mall from December to February, much more than, and Market Street, WS Development knows that. It's, kind of crazy, December and February doing the numbers. That's one point. Another is the left-hand, I wanted to agree with Phil, that left-hand turn, and my neighbor also, the left-hand turn out of Market Street is frightening. You feel like you're taking your life in your hands. Part of the issue is that ramp, the southbound ramp, which has a sign which is kind of obscured by tree branches that says 30 miles an hour. Nobody goes 30 miles an hour. I don't go 30 miles an hour. And people are going 50 miles an hour. They step on it, and it's a straightaway, and they have a green light, And it's scary when you're coming out of this plaza to take a left and you are seeing the speed at which people are coming towards you. Really scary. So that was one thing. And the last comment is the northbound ramp. Who cleans up the broken car parts that are at the base of the ramp from the latest accident? There's stuff in the road a lot of the time. I don't know whose responsibility that is to clean that, but people are driving over that. That's not doing our cars any good. So my last point is, with 2.5 million in tax revenue before the build out, and obviously more now and more ahead, I don't know how in good conscience we can't approve a traffic officer. It just doesn't make sense to me. Thank you.
Andrew, before we go on to the next question, the car parts out of there and the junk that's left behind an accident, who's in charge of taking care of that? Is that a DPW job, or is it where it's on the Mass DOT area?
And typically, we request that the tow operator, if the one responds, clean up. They usually sweep up the glass and anything that's left over. But sometimes the accidents, people will just exchange information without even calling us, and that might be left behind. So if that intersection, if it's in the intersection itself, I believe that's a MassDOT. So we could contact MassDOT and have them come down, and And thank you very much, Ms. Williams, for your forthright response to your speeding. I'll be keeping an eye out for my neighbor.
Next question.
Hi, my name is Linda Garborough, and I live on Merrill Road. And it's a dead-end street. People think they can go to Lowell Street from there, and they whip up the street again, 30, 40 miles an hour. Can you imagine? But the traffic on Main Street is absolutely horrendous now. We never had tractor trailers or doubles on Main Street, and we have them now. Because why? Because of Market Street. Because they can't go down Walnut Street. Can they go down Summer Street? No. They go down through Linfield Center to 128 and go 128 to Market Street. And it's horrendous. I mean, Linfield has only a small little town. You know, people are coming and going all the time. It's not a problem with Chief Breen, and they have quite a few new police officers, and they do their job. I see them stopped on Main Street, especially down by the elderly citizens' house on Main Street, and Essex Street. People are crazy. They're speed crazy.
Linda Carmichael, 7 Country Club Drive. I appreciate everything my neighbors have said, but my concern is the same one as always, where the ramp comes down from 128 south and merges onto Walnut Street. I agree with what my neighbors said, 100%. We come out of Country Club Drive, just like our neighbors on Alexandra, you do feel like you better be dead careful and then careful again, because people just sail down that ramp. And my original issue that I've said so many times is, why is it a big deal to put a light where that ramp comes down so people either have to stop before they come onto Walnut Street, or even better, why not some kind of a signal that pedestrians are trying to cross there? When we're out in the Seattle area, they have stop signs that light up. In by Harvard Medical School in Boston, a person steps into the crosswalk, a light is signaled to alert the drivers there's a person trying to cross the street. Why can't we get that? I don't know if it's DOT. I've overstepped my talking allowance. These are my concerns. I'm concerned for the young trying to get up to Market Street to do whatever they would want to do up there. It is dangerous, and we need some help with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Karas, while she asked that about coming left on Walnut Street towards Linfield, towards Summer Street, she's taking a right, coming down the ramp towards the center. Would there be any possibility of having some sort of signal or something there that would slow that traffic down?
That isn't something we typically do. I've been out there several times, and honestly, I don't have any problem crossing that short section that you're talking about. We've cut the branches back, we've put the speed sign up, and there's another sign going up that's gonna say, yield to pedestrians in crosswalk with a right arrow. We've done as much as we can to improve the visibility. I understand that speeding is a problem there, and it doesn't matter how many signs you put up, it isn't gonna stop the people from speeding.
What if you
But-
squared it off? Instead of having just a yield to the right onto Walnut? Because I can see coming right off that highway. I mean, you see no one coming on the left. That's that road right on the right. That's dangerous.
Stop
sign instead of the yield sign.
Well, a stop sign is something we can look at, but again, anytime you make one of these changes that you put a no turn on red up, you put a stop sign up, you put an arrow up and stop the other people, all those little C's and D's you saw up there are gonna go to E's and F's, and then the congestion will be worse. So everything has a trade-off. And okay. As I said, there's gonna be a trade-off with anything you do, whether you put stop signs up, no turn on reds, put arrows up and stop the other sides. It's gonna degrade the capacity of the intersection. I know there's a trade-off of safety and capacity, and it's something we try to balance as best we can. And we've been making a lot of improvements out here, and we're willing to look at more, but again, that's something I believe that's probably, it wasn't on the list of things we were looking at, and it's something we can look at.
Do you agree with me that a light flashing is more of an attention grabber than signs? We all look by signs, they become invisible. But when we go into
But it's a yield right now, right?
I think it's just a yield, yeah.
Someone steps into that crosswalk in front of Happy Medical, that light flashing in your face, I mean, you can be thinking of 10 other things. You see the light, you think, hello, there's a person in the crosswalk. I think there must be something that we could do there to make that a little bit safer, that wouldn't cost a ton of money.
I don't have the answer for you right now. I know there are rules we have to follow where there's a traffic signal, you can't flash a light or a different color light up there. There are stop signs that are illuminated now that have little LED bulbs in them that flash. But in order to put a stop sign at the bottom of a ramp, I'd have to check it out with the state traffic engineer, but that's something we can look into.
I appreciate what you have talked about, but I'd appreciate it if you would consider that. Think of that to the safety for everyone.
Thank you. Chief Breen?
I just wanted to thank MassDOT, Mr. Karas and Mr. Stedman, because they've been very responsive to my calls, and I know they've answered the selectmen as well. And I just wanted to, Mrs. Williams just brought up the fact about the speed limit sign. That was just posted 2 weeks ago. So we were down there today. We're going to put one of our radar trailers down there. So the speed limit is 30. We set it up in the median strip. Unfortunately, the last time we had the radar trailer out, somebody stole a 30-mile-per-hour sign off the back of the trailer. So I relocated it to Main Street down in front of the middle school. We're going to acquire another sign and get it back up there. But also, now that we have the sign up there, we'll be able to do some radar on the entryway to Market Street. We can get up there, and because they do come down that ramp and they do go through that intersection very quickly. They turn the corner there and they see the green light, and it's the pedal to the metal. So and I can address this further. I know the two gentlemen were getting off subject from what we initially discussed.
Chief, can I just follow quickly up on that?
Yes.
What you're talking about, is that the thing that flashes the speed you're going? Or is that just a permanent speed limit? 'Cause I know
It'll flash the speed you're going, or we can just do a monitor phase where we turn that off and we can get a printout of what the speeds are without flashing it, so people.
Because I think it's pretty effective on West Peabody when you come in, what street is, but you're going down towards Lowell Street. I know there's one that's flashing there, catches my eye every time.
They have one on Lake Street, is that the one
It's a
you're
Lake
talking?
Street, yeah, that's
Yes.
it right there. I think that's a pretty effective sign.
So we have the trailer, that's, we had some issues with the computer, we've got that repaired, so we've got that out there right now on Main Street. It's an older trailer, but it's still in working condition, so we're going to use that throughout the summertime. And we'll have it up on Walnut Street in many locations in the next few weeks.
Yeah, we can talk with our town people and the Mass DOT, but I'd like to take any more questions for the Beta Group here on the study, while we still got them here.
Well, I'd like to thank the Beta Group for the study. You've confirmed a lot of what we've talked about in this room and in town meetings for months now. So it's in black and white, and I want to thank you for that. We all know that Market Street is here to stay. There's no denying that. Oh, everybody can hear me? People at home for TV. Hi, people at home. Everybody knows that Market Street is here to stay. So unless, we have these meetings, we continue to have these meetings, there are little baby steps, but I think what has to happen in the town and with us is we have to get more aggressive. Beta suggested enforcement and changing signs. DOT, I was on 128 recently at Route 109 in Dedham, and in the overhead sign, they said they had a truck ban sign. Commercial vehicles over 2.5 tons. Big overhead sign, you can't miss it. We could do something similar to that on 128, if it's at all possible. I think that would help a lot too. But I want to thank you. I know you got a lot of negative feedback, but I'm giving you some positive. Thank you very much.
Jim, can you bring that mic up here? We had a couple people in front here, had a couple questions. Yeah, one more back there, then bring it up. They've been patient.
Hi, Stephanie Hines, live on Fernway. I do also appreciate your study. I think that for the time period you chose, I don't deny that those numbers were accurate. However, I think in general sense, it's a flawed survey, and we need to consider doing it again or doing something else and having it be a more accurate representation of what's really happening, probably a good 9 months of the year as opposed to December when it's very cold and you're not going to get much traffic. It's very different mid-December than right now in mid-June. So I think the selectmen need to consider that, the town needs to consider that, and honestly, I feel kind of hopeless about the whole situation. Market Street is in fact here to stay, but look at our numbers on that board with the level of service, and they're either staying the same, which is kind of crappy, or they're getting worse. That's what we bought though, folks, and that really stinks. It really does.
That's not what was promised.
Well, okay, that wasn't promised, but there were other, we got Market Street, unfortunately, so.
Market Street, we just have to deal with the ramifications.
Jim, can we have Bob Casoli up on Sparhawk? Oh, yeah.
Bob Casoli, 1 Sparhawks Drive. Can you explain
Yes.
to me by narrowing that house can affect the 2 property owners at the end of the street?
If that's narrowed, if that's narrowed, the only alternative people have to take U-turns would then be to use those 2 private drives.
Oh, do a 3-point turn.
Right.
From the driveway, do a 3-point
Right.
turn. Okay, I understand that.
Okay.
I want to say one thing that I think is an important thing. I mean, I've seen Chief Breen had a police officer down there. If you want to see someone work and work 5 hours straight, this guy pulled over truck after truck, U-turns. It was nonstop. So when you come back and tell me on December 26th there was only 3 turnarounds, and tonight I see 18, and his police officers go nonstop. They do not sit in that cruiser for 5 minutes. When they get out, they're pulling over truck after truck after truck. I agree with Chief Breen. I think you should do, and I agree with you, shouldn't do nothing to Sparhawk. You need a wide area. It's the only place you can pull over trucks. It's a moneymaker for the town. I mean, it's a moneymaker for the town. The thing is, and I think the selectmen have to come up with some solution. Do you make it one way? Do you do this? You do that? But whatever you do, that's all you do is kick the problem to someone else. You got a serious problem here. You got a real problem here. People could talk all night long. You guys, the selectmen, got to come up with solutions. Try something. Put a barrel out there. Make the street one way. If that doesn't work, try something else. I know I do it on Boylston Street. I put a barrel out there, no U-turns. If you educate people, people will follow it. The problem is, on Sparhawk, I don't know about Blue Jay, but once you start making the turn, it's too late. You're going to make the U-turn no matter what. So I don't know, maybe you have to reposition, it's a learning curve, maybe you have to reposition the no U-turn, but a lot of people, even truck drivers, I go out and I ask them, why are you making a U-turn? And they tell me, I don't understand the signs, they're in English. This is tell you. So you think you got a solution, and there's another issue coming up. And I'm sure Mass DOT deals with this every day.
Charlie, while we're on that, could you tell us how the experience we had when we tried the barrels as a temporary island on the end of Sparhawk?
No, Phil, I'm just saying one barrel.
Well, I'm just going. I want to know what the experience was when we tried that before. I know you're talking about one barrel, but we tried something before, and I just want to see how it worked.
Yeah, about 2 years ago, we
Yeah.
put barrels up to simulate an island there. There was the two residents on the corner had issues with pulling into the driveways.
Yeah.
And then we removed them because there wasn't enough support for them.
Right, and that was the exact point they made. It didn't make sense for those two residents.
Correct.
All right. Did you and I know some of your earlier study, you looked at narrowing the road.
Correct.
All right, and was that something that you would, at the time, were recommending?
I don't think I recommended any of I think I came up with a dozen different scenarios there. Between people, if you narrowed the intersection, you'd be forcing people to go into the driveways to turn around.
Right.
Plus, whoever could make a turnaround in that intersection after that would still turn around. So you wouldn't eliminate all U-turns to begin with.
Right.
So it wasn't going to be a silver bullet that got everything taken care of.
Okay, and we'll get to Chief after we've asked a couple more questions. We'll get to the Chief about what we're doing about the enforcement side of it, because that is something we already addressed. Folks up front here?
Muriel Ciceri, 35 Mansfield Road. Ed South and I have been coming to these meetings, this board, previous boards, with the same complaints, Gianna Drive. These gentlemen have acknowledged how bad it is. We can't get in, we can't get out. The town knows it. The town created the problem when they allowed the development on Gianna Drive. Now, once that happened, we started coming to town hall. What are you going to do for us? It's your responsibility to keep us safe. We have talked to you about engineers. We have talked to you about lighting. We have talked to you about everything and anything that could help us. And it falls on deaf ears. I can't believe that you take us seriously because it's been 10 years. Now, I had blonde hair before I came here. Now I'm on my way to the nursing home, and we're still fighting to get in and out of Gianna. I think that at this point in time, if you people don't take some steps, engineers, I've seen them walking up and down the street, but that doesn't do us any good. How long do we have to wait? Because if someone gets killed, I'm sure that will bring you all to your feet because you'll have a lawsuit. And Ed and I are getting tired of coming here and getting no results. So I beg of you, do something. We're a small community up there. This town allowed Saugus to have 14 houses up there bringing in tax dollars, and all we got was aggravation. And the town allowed it. So the town is responsible, and it's time that you take some action. And I thank you again for listening to me. And now I'd like Ed to talk, because he's a lot calmer than I am.
Ed South, Mansfield Road, tough act to follow, Muriel. But I guess the question I would have, I really appreciate the fact the report 3 times calls out that turning left off of Gianna is a very dangerous enterprise. I mean, it's indisputable. It was a thing that was created by the town. We were assured that by a professional engineer that this was going to be a safe intersection, and of course, it's not. We're not talking about time delays or difficulty getting out we're talking about an actual life-threatening situation. You said yourself, you followed those cars down and they're doing 40 miles an hour. I mean, the light might flash and warn them that we're coming, but they don't. Not many of them pay much attention. So here we get to my question. The options considered here were either too expensive or were illegal. And so that doesn't change the fact that we have a life-threatening situation. Are we open to another option? We had suggested before to the town that if you just reverse the warning capability, right now you warn the people coming down Walnut Street that we're trying to get on. We'd really much rather feel that we know someone's coming down Walnut Street so we don't try to enter, into their path. We had that when we had Mansfield Road going out to Walnut Street. We could see to the left very well. So if that capability that was taken could be restored, that would make it safer and would not require traffic light or any of these other illegal things, and wouldn't cost the town, I don't think, very much money. So I'd like to have somebody consider that. The other piece is, if that's not allowable for some reason, are these things written down that can only have a traffic light on certain circumstances? Are there never any exceptions for life-threatening situations? If so, can our representatives lobby the officials of the state to make an exception if one is needed? I'd much rather do what I initially suggested. I think it would be not overly costly and could be done quickly. So I'd like someone to at least look at it and see if they can get back to us as to whether that's valid.
So you'd like to have some warning for you coming off of Gianna, letting you know that the traffic's
Yeah.
coming from the left?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the folks coming down Walnut Street, knowing us there, it's just a piece of information to them. And they don't, a lot of them don't respect it, frankly. When we used to come down Mansfield Road, we could see very well to the left, and we could take our chances. It was up to us. So we'd like to take our own responsibility, but we need enough information. And the information is who's coming down Walnut Street towards us.
And I can assure you, I come down that road every day, going to work in the morning, and people don't slow down.
No.
People see the light flashing, they might slow down a hair, and then they just keep going.
Yeah, so I really would appreciate a thoughtful, I did suggest it to town officials earlier. I think they thought about it for a minute and told us a reason why they didn't think it was valid. But if someone could put some thought into it, because we're not playing around with how many feet from the traffic light traffic's backing up. We're really talking about some dangerous situation that's going to cost somebody their lives.
Ken, looking at that part of the traffic study, and I know you have it as an AA, and that's because it doesn't have any traffic volume there. But as far as safety, did you look at anything for that?
Well, first of all, understand that level of service has nothing to do with safety.
Right.
Okay, so if we give it an AA, that doesn't mean we think it's safe. It's just traffic
It's volume.
operations, right? We talked about a few things at that intersection. I know that we discussed potential for traffic signal operation, and that was brought up to us. But there are warrants that have to be satisfied. These are national warrants. And so what I said, I said to the town that if you put in traffic signals without warrants, they might work fine, they might not, but you'll always bear the responsibility. And I don't think any traffic engineer is going to agree to design traffic signals where they can't satisfy warrants. Now, I know it's a safety issue.
Well, you know something, could I just, we've heard that many, many times.
I know, but
and could I just say this?
Go ahead.
Personally, I don't think a traffic light's a good idea. I think it would make the traffic on Walnut Street much worse. So I don't think it's a good idea, but let's try warning us that the traffic's
But
coming down. Have you considered that?
No, if I could just continue, okay, and I'll answer your question. we didn't think traffic signals were a good idea either. What I said was, what I think we really need to do, I think you need a real engineering study there, a design project, because the whole problem is that hump, as you look north, you can't see anything. And I think if that could be trimmed back, but I mean, that takes survey, it takes engineering. Now, as far as your idea is concerned, having a warning for yourself, I don't know about you, but I did not like driving out of that intersection, okay?
feel the same
And,
way.
and I would not, for myself, I wouldn't feel comfortable relying on the fact that I went over a detector or that they went over a detector. I wouldn't want to rely on the fact that the detector was working. You know, if you don't see a sign, if you don't see a detector or a flashing light telling you that there's no problem, what do you do? Do you exit? Well, what if it's not working? Personally, I wouldn't do it. I don't think it's safe enough.
Well, there must be a way to make that safer. There's fail-safe systems that can be put in place. The thing is, every time we talk about this, they say a traffic light's not possible, and I can see that. Talk about that land, pulling it down, it's never gonna be done. I mean, we just talk about it. But, so you take all those facts together, and what do you end up with? We can't do anything, we just need to deal with this life-threatening situation. Your lives are not being threatened.
I'm not saying your suggestion
Yeah,
wouldn't
so-
work.
So.
I wouldn't rely on it. That's all I'm
Well,
saying.
Is it possible to have some sort of fail-safe situation that makes it very reliable? Is that beyond our technology? I mean,
Any detector can fail.
Well, the existing flashing light you have seems to be pretty reliable. The one that no one pays attention to, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
do it the other way.
But it seems to be working.
Yeah.
And it seems to be working for some time now.
Yeah,
So
do it
so
the
you
other
want
way.
to reverse that? Yeah.
We'll pay attention to it,
Yeah, yeah.
you know?
I
So-
understand.
So
Because you're coming to a stop.
yeah, I mean, we're not, if it says something's coming, we're not.
But Walnut Street has the right of way, so they can see that, they still have the right of way, they can keep moving forward. I like the idea of having, and I understand but the fail-safe, looking into that and allowing that on that street.
Yeah, we can certainly look into that. I wanted to ask the DPW, either Andrew or Charlie, if you've looked into this and what you've found over there and what you recommend. I mean, I know it isn't a new subject, and we've looked into it many times.
I think this was talked about many years ago with another traffic consultant. And we went over many different scenarios throughout all this. I think, and it's possible that this would be construed as possibly a traffic signal. If you had an alert such as that, where someone out of Gianna Drive was depending on that light to go on, to go out of Gianna Drive. Now, and from my consideration, it would all depend on reaction time too. Mr. Sal's reaction time to an alert on Gianna Drive for a car not coming down the road would be a little different than mine. A car traveling 45 miles an hour might come into that zone where it would affect, it would crawl up into that zone where it would possibly be a conflict for someone turning out if they had a slower reaction time.
Right.
So those things I think were considered, but I think ultimately that's the reason why we went with the sign the way it is right now.
Charlie, we talked about this before because I met with you two about this very issue. I talked to Bill Gustis, the prior town administrator, about this. He reached out to Paul Stedman at Mass DOT. And the reason that I was stopped from pushing for a full traffic light there that would work to turn right on Walnut Street only when a car was coming to exit Gianna Drive was that there was inadequate traffic flow using Gianna Drive, and MassDOT wouldn't support it. Is there some other information that you fellas have that could help with the safety of the people that live up there? Because we're really at our wits' end. We're trying to keep them safe.
If you're asking for a traffic signal on Walnut at Gianna Drive, there are laws and federal guidelines that you have to comply with to install a traffic light, and that doesn't comply with any of them. So the state, first of all, the state isn't involved because it's not a state highway. But if you were asking our opinion, we would say it would be illegal to put a traffic light there.
So now and I went through this and I asked our prior town administrator to forward it to Paul Stedman. There's a set of lights put up on Lowell Street by a church, and it was installed maybe about a year ago. And it pretty much only works when kids are crossing the street or when church is in operation. Now, right in the middle of Lowell Street, really there's no big need for that set of lights. Yet there's a set of lights, and that's to keep people safe coming and going from that church.
Is that in Peabody?
That's in Peabody.
All right, I'm familiar with that.
So what would be the difference here? I don't know. I don't know if people were hit by cars there.
There was a fatality there. There was a fatality, and the city installed the light, not the state. It's a city roadway. The city installed a mid-block pedestrian traffic light.
Because we have one by, up in South Winford by Pearly Burl that was utilizing that. Is the pedestrian regulations different than automobile, or?
Pedestrian regulations are very strict and very hard to meet. That being said, there are a lot of pedestrian traffic lights out there that do not meet these regulations because honestly, it's very difficult to have enough pedestrians crossing to comply with the volumes that are required.
Follow-up question, just quickly. You said that the city put up that light. So if Linfield chose to put up a light, there's an application process for that.
No, we have nothing to do with it. If you want to put up a light, you can put up a light. It's not legal, but you can put it up.
But what this couple is saying, they would prefer to have a reverse warning signal that's there now than nothing. That's what they would like us to consider.
That's right.
Yeah,
could be
right.
variability with something like that.
Yeah, which I think, and I understand the cautious part of
Just
it.
say this, that I believe the town has liability right now, because they took a defective traffic study, and on the basis of that, allowed the installation of Gianna Drive.
How many years has that been there?
I have no idea.
To over 10 years? Yeah.
So, I think the town, in terms of responsibility, has the responsibility right now. I know if any of our folks got injured with, we don't have for redress. So, I think there is a liability, but right now, so that's a question of, which liability do you want?
Well, while we're talking about it, what is the possibility, if there's any, of improving the sight line coming down that road? I know it's private property, there's stone, there's trees, there's brush. If we clear the brush back, it helps a little bit, but you can't take a mountain out of the way. Is that all private property? Is any of that town property?
We've kind of looked at that consideration, particularly when Beta looked at it during the course of the study. The majority of it is private property. There would have to be some survey done, as indicated by Beta, to determine what level of involvement, what we could take back if we were gonna, how we would, does the town acquire the property? Does the town have to shore up the structure up there? It opens up a whole bunch of other issues that will require a full engineering study. We have gone out and trimmed back the brush, and it's an ongoing battle because it continues to grow. We'll be back out there very shortly because it needs to be trimmed back again. There's not much more we can do on the low end until maybe some sort of larger review is done.
Is the brush on town property, is that on private property, and we're just doing it for the sight line?
The majority of it's probably in the right of way. There's really no, it's literally weeds and scrub growth, so it's not really an issue. There's been no issue with us trimming it back with the resident. But there's not really a lot of growth there in general. It's actually a lot of rock.
Okay. Well, we'll look into the, and see what the option there is.
I'm just asking for more than a 30-second discussion.
Oh, no, we're gonna have more,
And-
yeah.
And something beyond the two options that were mentioned, because every meeting we have, and those are so obviously not tenable.
Right.
That, that's as far as we get. So we need some creative thinking to solve a dangerous situation.
What happened to your access to Mansfield Road?
That was closed off, and I'll give you the good reason why. We were approached by one of the town people, and when Gianna Drive opened up, now Mansfield Road opens up, we can see to the left. They can't see. There would have been head-on collisions. If we were going right, they were going to go left, because Mansfield and Gianna are very close to each other. So the deal was, let's close Mansfield, because we were the fewer people. And we go out through Gianna Drive, and as Ed said, we were assured, you'll have better sight. And I thought, well, we've got pretty good sight now going to the left. But what do we know? These are the people from the town telling us this is a good idea. Great, let's do it. So they said they would close off Gianna, and they put a retention pond in at the end. And everybody uses Gianna Drive. And the outcome was, we can't see anything. And the house that we're talking about, the developer of Gianna Drive, his sister, he bought that house so his sister could live in there. And so most of that property belongs to the house. Now, other than eminent domain, I don't think they're gonna let you be tearing anything down over there. But this is how it ended up that we lost Mansfield Road. And it didn't seem like a bad idea, let's be fair to the town, because Mansfield Road goes like this. So it was a tough haul getting up there. And the other deal was, see, you guys went around. The other deal was, Mansfield Road did not want all 14 houses that were on Gianna Drive to be using Mansfield Road. We can barely get up Mansfield Road in bad weather. What are we gonna do with the Saugus people? So, the developer made a deal with the town. Let us put in Gianna Drive, and we're gonna give you new water lines. The town said, good deal for us. So they went along with the developer. We got new water lines that we needed desperately, because I used to go fight with the water department, because I had rusty water and everybody else did. So we had orange laundry. No. So this was going to be another good thing for the people on Mansfield Road. So they got the new water lines, they got Gianna Drive, and we got shafted. That's the bottom line.
All right, well, we'll make that a priority for us to talk with the DPW. Go out, we're gonna take a good, strong look at it. It won't be a 30-second look. We'll take, and we'll be talking about what options are really available. Okay, you know, because we have been looking at it. It's not something we're ignoring.
We appreciate it.
You know, if we had a great solution for it, we would. I mean, we're still gonna keep looking and see what it is. Does anyone have any more questions for the Beta group here? Is there a microphone? Jim?
Hi, Katie Shea again. I wanted to ask you, you might not have this expertise, but at what point, we know that the traffic's going to get worse, we know that our intersections, the queuing is going to get worse. At what point does the congestion get so bad that people stop, or not, that's the wrong word, that it deters people from coming to Market Street? In other words, we have many malls around here, you know, people come in and out all the time, and if someone has a choice, when does it get to the point, the queuing, that people say, oh, it's too hard to get in and out of that place?
Well, there's no one answer to that. That depends on what's around you. For example, if you have a road that's really the only north-south road in the area, people have no choice. If there are other options, then when they become uncomfortable, then they'll switch to other roads. So there's no real answer to that.
The other thing is, this is a question for the Board of Selectmen, and I think specifically, Phil, for you, because you are the liaison to Market Street.
Sure.
We know that there's an agreement between, or what I've read it, between WS National Development that exit 43 will be the exit that they advertise for on the web, on all their literature, radio, whatever. And I know they have that agreement with Wakefield. Is there any way that we could go back to the developers, and since we do have a working relationship with Wakefield and we share some, of our inspectors with Wakefield, that they could entertain that exit 42 could also be advertised? Because when this was originally developed, when I talked to the Department of Transportation, they said the original design for this development was based on 2 exits being used. And after the development was approved, then all the traffic got, was bared on the exit 43 ramp. So I know it's a yeoman's job, but if you could, entertain those conversations, I think that's something that would help all of us. And, as far as the balancing of traffic.
Sure. And I know we've broached that subject before, and I'll certainly do it again.
All right, thank you very much.
Joe?
To that point, Wally and I were around when that happened. Sorry. The agreement was made with Wakefield that Market Street could put a sign at the end of the street, but they could not advertise. So let's take the sign down tonight, and they can advertise.
Can I just say that it's interesting that...
You use the microphone so the people at home can hear you, please.
I have to say, it's very interesting what you were told from what Linfield was told from the original Market Street discussions and what Wakefield was told for the Market Street discussions. Because we were told that the Audubon Road area for exit 42 was only going to be for overflow and access. It wasn't going to be a main entrance. And that changed. And the reason when that did change, and we had discussions about the signage at the Four Points or Sheridan or whatever it's called now, that's why Wakefield put that in. And what unfortunately, exit 42 is not the answer, because although we're talking about Market Street, and Market Street has certainly had an impact on both exits, 42 has lots of other issues and lots of other traffic that's directed there, other than Market Street. So it is already, like I said, and you probably have the same situation. If I try to come out Walton Street to go anywhere, I can't go either way, because if I'm going to right, I'm involved in all the Walnut Street situation, whether I want to get to Route 1 or to 128. And if I can't go right or left. And the unique situation with my neighborhood is that we have 100 homes that can only come to Salem Street. Some of you at least can go to Salem Street or Walnut Street. We don't have that option. We have 100 homes that can only go to Salem Street, and I'm gridlocked. And I'll tell you the situation that I worry about, and I'm sure you people do too, is an ambulance or a fire truck that needs to get to yes, they can get down my street, it's certainly wide enough, but the amount of that they have to get through to come to is absolutely frightening. And I'll tell you, it did happen that they had to call, my husband called an ambulance from the house for himself, and I was in Wakefield Center, and I could get to my house before the fire department did. And that was terrifying.
Wally and Joe, you might know this. Phil, you might know it because you probably, I don't know who knows, but you two probably do know it. When we originally talked about exit 43 and it being upgraded to a C, what was that based on? Was it how did the Department of Transportation think it was going to become a C?
It was VHB's traffic study.
That was it?
It's the study, it's still down at the library.
And they said 60% of the traffic would come down that ramp go into Market Street, all this traffic that we're talking about wouldn't exist. And they said that 30% of the traffic was gonna come in on the other exit from the Wakefield side.
So all right, so that's how we got there. So when this development was originally 60%? Okay. But,
Chief, we'll give you facts and figures.
so there's problems on both ends.
Hey, folks, can we move that along? I got the chief wants to talk about what's gone on up to this point. Maybe you can touch on where we are with hiring the new officers we've approved and what your experience up there has been up to date.
Sure. Let me just begin by sharing some analysis that I've done from January 1st of 2013 until June 24th of 2013. The department had issued 565 enforcement actions for traffic. During the same period in 2014, it went from 565 to 838. And then this year, over the same period, we're at 1,031. So we've definitely been out there. I think my offices, again, I said this before, I'm very proud of what they've done. We discussed the issues up there and in other areas of the street, because we have some neighbors here from Main Street and Essex Street. Walnut Street is not the only place that we need to go out and enforce traffic. So I think the officers have responded with alacrity. I'm very, very pleased to share that with you. So where we stand now is, at the town meeting, we had approval for an additional officer for a combined school resource officer and traffic enforcement officer. That officer assigned to that specific task was Officer Patrick Curran. He's a recent transfer from Winthrop, and he will begin that role in July. That money was set for FY16, which begins next week. We also have another officer from Winthrop. I went to the farm system down there, and I got another officer who I'm very happy. We were able to have a discussion with the chief over there, and Officer Christopher DiCarlo will be starting July 20th. He recently passed the bar. He's a very intelligent officer, and he becomes very highly recommended, so I'm looking forward to having him come on board. In addition to that, we're looking at hiring somebody off the existing list. And I had a discussion with the town administrator today about that. We're going to have another list sent out to us from civil service. So we'll have an additional officer when school is not in session. That officer will be designated just for traffic enforcement. We just sent him to motorcycle school. The motorcycle is a great tool to use for traffic enforcement. So we'll be utilizing that, and along with the trailer, we'll have him in various locations, depending on need, based on traffic accidents. Certainly Walnut Street is an issue. We know that. I reflected upon that in my traffic study on my security plan that I did for Market Street several years ago, when I said that, it's very obvious when you create a mall that has 395,000 square feet of retail space and some residential areas, and then having the golf course open, you're going to have some type of a deleterious effect on traffic, and we're dealing with that now. But Market Street was not the sole cause of this. This area was a problem before. We had truck traffic going down there. When I started here in 1994, we had truck traffic going down Walnut Street when Sergeant McGarnell was down there and enforcing the truck bans. And speeding's been an issue down there as well. My wife was involved in an accident at the intersection of Alexandra Road and Walnut Street, so I'm well aware of that. So we will be down there, along with the traffic, the speeding sign, which was just put into place a couple of weeks ago. That will assist us in doing some traffic enforcement on the 95 southbound off-ramp to Market Street, where they fire right across the intersection into Market Street there. So we will continue that, and with the assistance of the traffic officer who will be out of, school was out today. I was in the schools today. The students all got out, so he will be focused on traffic enforcement for the next couple of months, and I'm sure that's going to have a positive effect on the traffic as well. That's where we stand.
Chief, what's I know we talked about it earlier, and I also spoke to Mr. Karras about the curb cuts in you guys getting together and get those designated and get the project going on getting those put in?
We did, after we had the last meeting with Beta, we went down to the intersection. I showed Mr. Stedman and Mr. Karras, and Karras and I are gonna meet down there Friday morning at 8 o'clock. We're going to do a curb cut in two locations, one south of 95, one north of 95, which will give the officers an area with which they can pull their cruiser into to observe traffic. As it is right now, there's virtually no place to park a cruiser down there to observe the traffic without people seeing you, and, you know, obviously, your location there will have an impact on it, but
We want them to be seen.
well, not if we want to do an enforcement, Mr. Fox.
Those who say won't
Chief.
be making.
Well, Mr. Fox, may I please speak?
I apologize.
So, we will be down there on Friday. I will show Mr. Karras again the locations, and they'll do the curb cuts, which will allow us to observe the traffic and enforce the existing laws, and also some of the truck signage, which will be placed in, will assist us in that regard also, so.
Chief, can I have a quick question on the
Yes, sir.
SRO officer and the traffic, the shared duties? When that officer is handling school activities, are you thinking using one of those new officers to kind of fill in for the school hours?
That officer will be assigned solely to the school resource officer, as a school resource officer and a traffic officer. He will not be filling an area, so we will
What
have
about
him
if-
dedicated to
yeah.
that
Well,
task.
when he's doing school resource officer work, because some of that work could also extend beyond the school day. Are you looking to use one of those new officers to fill in, so we certainly somewhat have a full-time traffic enforcement officer?
As it stands now, no, the officer that will be coming in July will be filling a promotion for Officer Scottina. I've requested that we promote Officer Scottina to be a sergeant, so his shift will open up, so the new officer will be filling that gap. But when we do have the new people coming in, they will just be filling gaps. They won't have somebody dedicated to traffic enforcement, except for Officer Curran when school is not in session. So when school is in session, he'll be tied up in school, but
Yeah.
ideally, what we would like to have, if there's nothing going on in the schools that would keep him there, we'll have him in the schools early and then later in the afternoon, and then he can still do some enforcement
So he could be
in
on call
between.
for the schools, like you said. I mean, Linfield and the school resource office is going to be a whole lot different than an urban area, so he certainly will have that flexibility throughout the day.
We do, although I will say, and the school superintendent will
Yeah.
also verify this, this has been the worst year I can recall for the need for an officer in the schools. I mean, we've had some serious issues. In fact, we just had a fight which occurred on Market Street property July 6th with, somebody took a video of it, and why they would do that, I don't know, but it got in my hands, and now we're investigating it. It was involved 3 Linfield juveniles and a Saugus juvenile. So we will be probably pressing charges on one of the persons involved in that fight.
So that's court activity, so he could certainly be dedicated throughout the day. There is that time.
He could, and then, of course, when you involve court activity, now the officer has to respond to court, which is in Salem. Whenever you go to Salem, I mean, the Salem traffic makes this traffic look ridiculous. It's an hour drive. It's
No, but-
45-minute drive sometimes just to get over to Salem Juvenile Court. It's crazy.
No, I think you've done great work with the enforcement. I think the enforcement is really, key to a lot of this discussion. And I think the more we can certainly get a full-time enforcement officer and move in that direction, I think it certainly helps you out. I mean, I think it's something you would
I-
utilize to the fullest.
I would certainly be pleased with having somebody dedicated to that task.
Right now, Chief, how is it gonna work, the split, one individual being the school resource officer and being a traffic officer? How exactly is that gonna work?
Well, we'll see. But we haven't had that happen. The officer right now is filling a shift, so I can't dedicate him to that task. But we will see in the fall what happens. But I mean, based on what's happened this year, if we have a similar year next year, that officer will be spending the majority of his day in the schools.
Yeah, it's probably 8 to 2.
So that's almost a full shift right there. So that means there's zero traffic enforcement.
The only
No,
traffic
so
enforcement.
we're really not splitting an officer then.
Well, in the summer, certainly he'll be completely dedicated to it,
Yeah.
and on vacation weeks as well. And you'll have some times in the schools where he'll have the availability to go up there and do some traffic enforcement. But certainly there'll be times when he'll be dedicated to the schools and he won't be out there at all. So the only enforcement we'll have is from the officers working the shift. And I think they've done a very good job, but you can only get so much out of the officers, especially now where our calls for service are up for a number of reasons, but I think that will continue. We're going to have another build out up here, and we've had a lot of calls to medical aids and issues up on Route 1. So,
I can't help but thinking with all the revenue that we're getting from Market Street, we seem to be beating estimates a couple of years in a row here, that given that splitting one officer between a school resource officer and a traffic officer just doesn't look like it's going to work. So I'd like to make a motion to my fellow selectmen. I'd like to make a motion that we find the resources, given that we're probably going to come up over budget with excess revenues from Market Street, that we hire a traffic officer, someone who's only going to do traffic enforcement, and they start out working nonstop along Walnut Street and Salem Street until we get this area really under control. I think right now everybody's doing a great job. I'm not saying they're not, but I think there's a lot more, and I think Beta pointed out that there's still a lot more activity there. The people are pointing that out, and I think it only begs us to move forward in that direction.
Well, when we first, Chief, where are we right now, Chief, as far as, we have the 2 new officers you hired, you're taking one off the list. Was there a 4th one you've already entertained? Because we had 2 replacement officers coming and 2 new officers coming. So we had a total of 4, but 2 brand new ones.
yeah, so the 2 transfers essentially filled. One was an opening that already existed.
Right.
And the other one is an opening that's going to occur next month when we have a promotion to sergeant.
Right.
So when we do that, we'll still have periods during the day shift where we're allowed to go down to 2 officers. Now, at one point 20 years ago, it certainly wasn't optimal to have 2 officers working the day shift, but now it's extremely difficult for 2 officers to do what needs to be done in this town on the day shift. We're so busy with calls. The officers are aggressive, and they're out there and they're stopping people, and when they make an arrest, now you have an officer who's not only pulled off the street for a period of time, but they also have to go to court. So the officer that's out on the street really has to focus on being available for calls, so that it makes it difficult for us to do any enforcement during those periods. And we've got some great new guys that I'm very happy the direction the department is going. But
where are we on filling 3 and 4? We added-
3 will be off the list.
3's off the list, and how about the 4th one that we've already
Well,
authorized?
we need to get a list and take a look at what we have.
Yeah, so we haven't even fulfilled the 4 that we've already authorized at this point.
We have not.
We have not. Because the argument when we authorized the SRO and the traffic officer was we would try that for a year and see what the demands were for that person. And then if it looked like their demands were greater than what one person could do, then we would consider adding a second at that point. And that's what I spoke to you and the superintendent about. And that's what we agreed on at the time. So we haven't even got the 4th one on board yet, or even the 3rd one at this point. So, and I know it's been taxing on you to get these positions filled, other than these 2 gentlemen from Winthrop. What's the time frame we're looking for these next 2?
Well, I know that when we tried to fill the transfers, we posted it. We used to get quite a lot of response, between 15 and 20 people seeking to transfer into Linfield, but some things have changed in neighboring communities where it made it less palatable for an officer to transfer out of his town to come here. So we had a candidate that we interviewed, myself, the town administrator, and Captain Johnson, and we felt very strongly that that candidate would be good. Unfortunately, it took a while for Winthrop to agree to let that officer go. So that will happen next month. And then however long it takes civil service to respond to us with the new list. That could be up to a few weeks, and then we would have to perform interviews, the process is several months. And then it's 6 months after that for the academy, and then 3 months field training. So it's a 1-year period that it takes from start to finish to get somebody hired off the list and out onto the streets.
But we're hiring 2 people from the list, correct?
Well, we're looking to hire 2 people off the list, that's correct, yeah.
Right, so now that process is far behind what we thought it might have been 6 months ago.
We're gonna do everything we can to get officers into the academy in September.
Okay, because the effect of that addition isn't gonna be felt for several months. You know, or it might be a full year until we know what those 2 new additions are gonna do for us. And so, you know, at this point, to add another one isn't really gonna do us any good until we find out what they are gonna do for us first. That was my point.
Well,
So
but in prior studies, Phil, we're already significantly behind, out of those 4 that we're adding, we're really only adding 2 officers, is that correct? Because we had 2 people retire?
Correct.
So we're only going up 2, but with the new, the injection of Market Street into the town of Linfield, we're significantly behind with the number of officers that we should have. And we need someone to hit that street as soon as possible to help with this Walnut Street, Salem Street issue.
Well, that's why I would recommend we take a 3rd officer, possibly as a transfer, and maybe just put 1 through the academy. So you get somebody on a little quicker.
Well, that's certainly a way that we can,
You know.
get somebody in here quicker. The question is,
Because then you'd have your additional officer, you know, much sooner than a year from now. So that might be something we want to consider, than
Well-
putting two through the academy at this point.
But is that officer gonna be enforcement?
I think Mr. Turnover made a motion, so failing a second.
Well, Dave,
We're still discussing
I
it, Dave.
appreciate that. I want some discussion on the issue, pretty big issue. I don't disagree.
Essentially, you made a motion, so is there a second?
I want to hear more information from certainly town officials. I haven't heard from the town administrator, so I'd like to hear that. Mr. Mayor?
I thought you were going to ask.
Even with all of what we just talked about, when they come on and everything, I think the chief just said there's only 2 officers during the day. And I think the issue is, that's not enough. From what he's saying, that's not enough. The other question I had was, we're talking about the money on this thing, how much can we afford another officer?
Right.
If there's 8 trucks an hour going up Walnut Street, how much is a ticket? He'd almost pay for himself.
Well, there's no question if we had that as
And if we ever send it to
an income-producing venture.
I got a better one for you. You put a police car up there with nobody in it with the lights flashing, no trucks go up Walnut Street, and your tickets go down to 500. Police presence.
Jim, can you just provide some, just the input on the budget ramifications of that as an officer at this point?
Well, if I understand, Tom's motion would be to increase the police department's headcount by an additional officer.
Correct.
I just want to get the input.
So the problem is, even though we might be getting more money from Market Street over here coming in, it's not over here in the police chief's budget. So he doesn't have the budget or the budgetary authorization for an additional officer. We'd have to, at town meeting, either in the fall and not completely.
Can we, because I like the idea, I do like the idea that Tom's discussing here. I think we do have the 2 months in the summer with this traffic enforcement officer to see how effective he is, and I think he'll be very much effective. I think proposing it through town meeting.
You would have to see, as the revenues and the new growth numbers are finalized by the assessor's office, do you have the additional revenue necessary coming in to support that going into the budget? If you do, then you can make that motion at a fall town meeting to give him another headcount. You couldn't do it right now because he just doesn't have the appropriation for it.
So we need town meeting, so there certainly is. 'Cause I think it's, the enforcement, I think Tom makes a very good point about, certainly it's part-time or he's sharing the time, but if he's in the public schools from 8 to 2, that's gonna extend beyond that with court and other activities beyond his day. I think that's a good point about the fact that, we're looking at weekend activity. He's not gonna work 7 days a week.
Because then now we're looking
Yeah,
at
so-
overtime or.
But I like,
or
the
person.
reason, we can second, we don't have I'm sure in the authorization right now at town meeting. I think it's something we look at over the summer and we add it to the town meeting.
Well, I think it's something that, I think the chief can use his current budget, and then at the town meeting in October, we can appropriate additional funds to cover that shortfall. But we have an immediate need, Beta's pointing it out. I've had 2 different meetings with most of these very same people in the room. Everybody just about begging for additional staffing with the police to come down and have additional traffic enforcement. And we're not giving the people what they want. And I think it's something that's really needed. So even though I get the whole point with the budget and transferring the funds, but I think the chief could make it 5 or 6 months with his budget as is, until I'm sure the town would be more than happy to appropriate an additional $60,000-$70,000 a year to have an officer out there who will not only be accomplishing the goal of the town, which is to eliminate some of the trucks, make people obey speed limits, not run traffic signals, not tie up intersections, bring some, not that there's not order, but bring a higher level of order that people are pretty much begging for. It's 9:45, and look at the number of people still in the room concerned about this topic.
No, I
I
don't-
think
I
it
don't-
speaks miles.
I don't disagree. I agree with you. I think it's not just Walnut Street, it's up my area, Salem Street, South Linfield, it's Main Street, it's Lowell Street. I just think adding another individual to the payroll without town meeting's approval, I think they will. I agree, Tom. I think certainly town meeting will look at it and approve it. I think we'd have to go through, as Jim said, because it's not in his budget. We'd have to go pretty much a roundabout way of getting this done.
Well, wait a second, hold on a second. I think you're missing the point of what I was talking about here. We've already added 2. They're not gonna be on board for a year. I think we'd be better served right now authorizing the chief to take one more person off of the transfer list instead of putting him through an academy to get him on board right now. It's not gonna do us any good to add another person if he can't get him out on the street. So I think we're better off telling the chief he can transfer one more at this point and maybe put one person through the academy off of the local list.
I just want to caution you that if we do make that change and you give me the authorization to hire another transfer, that doesn't mean that I'll get one.
Well, I understand.
So we certainly will post it on the CGIS website, and hopefully we'll get some. Sometimes you do get some transfer applications. Unfortunately, the applicant is not somebody that we'd be willing to take on. So we really need to
But
do the
hasn't it been
homework.
challenging getting
Well, this last one,
Yeah.
we only had, I think, 3 candidates, I believe, Mr. Boudreau, and two of the candidates we would not have been amenable to hiring.
was that the transfer list or
That
the,
was
or the
transfers.
academy
There's
list?
actually no list.
Yeah.
What you do is you post it, and if an officer from a civil service community would like to transfer in, they fill out, an application, and then we interview them, and I do a background check to determine whether or not they'd be somebody that I think would be a quality candidate for my department.
But Chief, if you need additional coverage now
That's the way to do it.
and the fall, that's the only way to do it.
That's the way to do it.
Right. That's what I would suggest we do.
I just wanted to make make sure you knew that that wouldn't necessarily mean I would get somebody. It took a while to get that last officer, but I certainly would be willing to post it on CGIS once I have the authorization. And I know that the officers that we have that graduated the academy spoke to some of their academy mates. In fact, the officer that's coming from Winthrop was in the academy with Officer Fitzmeyer and Provost, and I believe he was the president of the class, and he had passed the bar, so he's a good candidate. So hopefully we can find somebody else that would be similar. We could get them in here quick, and then they hit the ground running because they've already been academy trained and they're ready to go.
Jim, if we've already authorized 2 transfers and 2 through the academy, would we need to make a motion to allow him to, or can he do that?
No, if the board took a vote to do 2 and 2, then the board would have to take a
Right,
vote to
that's right.
change that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think I would prefer a motion to allow him to have another transfer on board now so we get immediate coverage. Because adding someone to the payroll a year from now isn't gonna do us anything. We can look at that at a future town meeting. Joe, go ahead.
Would this Board of Selectmen right now acknowledge that it would be a good idea for us to have another traffic officer dedicated to traffic? And would this board right now commit to bringing that as a warrant to the fall town meeting?
Well, I would go by the recommendation of the chief, once he gets the other officers on board. I mean, you have to see what we've already authorized and how it works before we keep adding. You and I had the same meeting, Joe. And with Wally, we talked about all this. And getting these first two on board was the goal. And to see what effect it had, and we're gonna have somebody enforcing the traffic. Well, now we're just throwing money at another officer for.
At that time, I said to you, I thought we needed another officer, and in fact, at that time, the chief of police was asked directly, could you use a traffic officer? And he said, I certainly could.
And that's what.
That was said. Now, when the vote came up, it was gonna be for a school officer who was gonna have some other duties, and a traffic officer, and the traffic officer got killed. And it was just gonna be the school officer, and the problem with the school officer, Phil, is the school officer is gonna be tied up 180 days a year. There's only 260 days a year that he's gonna be working, and he's still gonna have to take a vacation. So, this just isn't enough time. You're gonna have 2 patrol cars in a town that used to be able to barely get by with two officers, and now you've got Market Street. All right, Market Street's doing a lot of financial good for the town, okay? But it's bringing some negative things to the town that need to be addressed. And the way to address it is to bring in a patrol officer that's traffic all day long, all right? I'm sorry that Catherine Carty isn't here tonight, because Catherine Carty will tell you, if people come up Alexander Road and make a U-turn in her driveway, while her children are playing in the driveway. I've seen it myself. All right? This is a safety issue.
Well, that's why I'd like to get somebody on board now. If he has 2 officers that are gonna handle the current shifts, we'll get somebody on now that if he can get a transfer to come in now to address that situation. Doesn't that make sense?
It certainly doesn't.
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask you again. Will this board commit right now to bringing a warrant to town meeting to add a traffic officer? And to at least, we've had 2 traffic studies, 2 big traffic studies, all right? And they both told us things that turned out not to be true. All right, they said 60% of the police said 60% of the traffic was gonna come down off of 128. The intersections were gonna be improved to the point that they were better than they ever were before. They're not, all right? We've got a problem, and we come to you for help. Are you gonna supply it?
If I could, procedurally, there is a motion on the floor, which I understand you wanted to talk about, but to have a conversation about it technically, you had to have a second. That aside, what I detect, I sense, is a consensus towards achieving this goal. As a voting citizen, I would ask Tom to withdraw his motion and bring it to the October town meeting on the points that both Chris and Phil have made, in the sense that there is a procedure here that if you do vote on it, to accelerate a process of hiring someone off of some other list. Right. And the idea that Chris made was, hey, we've got this dedicated school part-time officer at Schools Out. Let's see how that works. And formulate a really solid warrant article for October town meeting. Having been on the finance committee, as you were, Phil, I know where you're coming from. So the point is, Tom, if I could ask you to withdraw that as a voting citizen and say the formulation of a solid warrant based on what Mr. Demena said, to have it come with a consensus and allow the chief to go ahead and hire as an expedited way he possibly can to back up that traffic and see what happens this summer.
No, I agree with that,
How do
Dave.
you feel about that?
Totally agree.
It's interesting because all the reports we get are demanding more and more police officers. We're merely, in all of this and all these discussions, Dave, we're really only adding 2, and they're gonna come in a year from the date in which they go into the academy. So we have a ways to go, right, Chief, before this is good, or a year from today?
Well, yes, for the officers going. For the officers going to the academy, yes.
It'll be a year from when they go to the academy?
It'll be a year from now, the whole process till we get that officer on the street.
Okay. So what my concern is, Dave, no matter how we cut this pie, the chief's staff is significantly understaffed by virtue of the situation that's going on now, prior studies that have been done. No matter how we cut this pie, we need to address this issue. I get we can test, we can continue testing the waters, trying different things, and then we're gonna lead up to just another meeting like this, where quite frankly, we're spinning our wheels. We haven't hit a resolution on one item yet.
I don't
Gianna
disagree.
Drive, we're still circling around what we can do there. Sparhawk, we're still circling around. We have a suggestion with signs that are gonna go up. By all accounts, we're in desperate need of additional traffic enforcement.
Procedurally, how you would function in there. Because then I saw this on the finance committee. You'd say, all right, you know, as we're doing the safety budgets, cut your overtime. Well, cut my overtime. Well, then the overtime shows up in October town meeting. So bottom line is, there is a procedure here to directly address this. It's going to take some time. My question then is to the chief, would a failure of Tom's motion tonight stop you from beginning the process of selection to have somebody approved at town meeting, essentially 3 months from now?
Well, if we were looking at hiring somebody off a transfer, hiring a transfer or hiring somebody from civil service, two different things. I could get a transfer,
Both of them
yeah.
to see where it goes.
In October, if I got the authorization for another person, I could bring a transfer in relatively quickly and have that person start right away. Whereas if we hired somebody, if I got the approval in October to hire somebody off a civil service list, the next academy wouldn't start until February or March. So they would be they wouldn't be able to actually work until probably January of 2016. Check that, 17.
So backing up, if we authorized at fall town meeting another transfer, that could happen immediately.
That could happen immediately.
Versus going that way. But as Phil says, just authorizing doesn't make it happen. It's not like turning on a light.
And assuming you can find one.
And assuming we could find one.
Well,
correct.
that's the issue, is finding one. That's why, but it's gonna be a lot quicker to get a transfer in place
An experience.
than a one-year academy. But I'd still like the idea of having some of the local youth have a chance of getting on the police department. So I don't want to abandon the idea of putting someone through the academy.
My
So
question still hangs
yeah.
in the air, Phil.
Joe, I would support that warrant, and I can't speak for my fellow selectmen, but based on what they've said, it sounds like they would support, it sounds like they would support.
I think
Joe,
you
well,
heard my
can I-
motion.
I'm obviously new to this discussion officially as a selectman, and I think I sat through one of the town meetings, or one of the discussions we had. I think it was at the middle school, it was at the high school actually, where I do agree. We're talking about the same issues, and I think moving towards, I would absolutely support that warrant. That's something I think that we need to do.
Yeah.
But it's not just, I think it's because I'm coming from an area that the Fairview Road can't take they're gonna take their lives in their own hand. So it is, Main Street's the same way, so I think there's a major need, so I absolutely support that, but I think procedurally, we have to go through that, what David has discussed, I think it's the right way of doing it, but allowing for the transfer right away.
One thing I
mean,
think
the middle school traffic in the morning is worse than any traffic in town. I mean, there's no question. You know, so there's issues throughout town that need to be addressed.
As long as the three of you agree that we need a traffic officer.
Absolutely.
Then we can work through the procedure. We can get it done at October town meeting. We'll hope to get that traffic officer right away, but if we have to get a transfer,
Right, and we can, right.
A new hire, then we'll get a new hire.
And we can address that at the October town meeting on a warrant. Absolutely.
At least we're moving in the right direction.
It's not the school committee budget. There's no autonomous expenditures.
No, there isn't. You're correct.
Mr.
So
Chairman.
What I would suggest now is, go ahead, Chief?
No, I
With regard to the Main Street middle school traffic, I've solved that problem for the next 2 months, so you don't have to worry about that.
Thanks, Chief, appreciate that.
But with regard to the next couple of months, now that the officer will be dedicated to traffic enforcement, I think you'll, in effect, I encourage the people to give me a call and let me know how it's doing in their neighborhoods. If we have 3 officers working tomorrow, I will have that officer on Walnut Street for most of the day.
Yeah, you can see what the effect's gonna be having someone
Yes,
there.
and I warn my neighbors. No phone calls, no get out of jail free cards. Okay, thank you.
So I would entertain a motion to allow the chief to take one more transfer.
First, I have to deal with my motion, right?
Well, if you want to withdraw it, or it hasn't been seconded, so it's up to you.
So, okay, let me finish. So, what I was gonna say is, I'd like to amend my motion to authorize the chief with the remaining 2 hires, one of those hires be an immediate full-time hire instead of from the academy. If someone cannot be hired within 3 months, you immediately switch back to civil service and try to get that second person off the list and into the academy by September.
May I speak? If we're going to put somebody in the academy September, we need to be doing that right now. If we wait any length of time, we'll never be able to get them in. They have to go through a physical agility test, they have a physical exam, a psychological exam. You need months to get that done, so I don't think I'll be able to do that. We'd have to put them in an academy next year.
Well, when in September does the academy start?
Typically the second week of September, but to get somebody in an academy, you need to have them come in and sign. They have so many, I think it's 10 days to sign, and then they have to do a physical agility test. You're supposed to give them several weeks, I forget the amount of weeks it is, to prepare for the exam. Then they take the physical agility test, and then we do a psychological exam, physical exam. It takes a long time to get somebody. That's why it takes 3 months to get them in the academy, 6 months in it, and then 3 months to do field training. So it's a year. That's the whole thing. So if we wait on that, Tom, I don't think I'll have enough time to get that second person in the academy. In September, we'll be able to get them in after that. But.
If I could just comment to say, it's my sense there's agreement. And so that if you withdraw your original motion and amended motion and go right to a motion that says authorize this, you can hire somebody. What do you say?
I'm all for it, especially after hearing that we're unanimously in support of if the traffic officer works well, that will be hired, that there will be a warrant at our October meeting that will all be in agreement to hire another full-time person. So tell me what you said.
Not if the traffic officer over the summer works well. A traffic
In addition.
officer in October, period, end of story. Put a punctuation on it.
It's needed no matter what.
So in addition,
I heard so moved.
That's all we need.
You still have Tom's,
Still needs a second.
Still need to say it.
Tom would need to either withdraw or have a second on his motion. His motion is still pending at this point.
Bob?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
can the chief clear it up, because I don't think a lot of people understand. When the state police come in, that money goes half to the state versus when you put an officer there, does that money come directly to the town?
No.
It doesn't.
No, when you cite somebody under Massachusetts general law,
Okay.
50% of that money as a municipality goes to the state, and 50% gets returned to the municipality through the court of jurisdiction. The state police, obviously, all of their money goes to the state. But for a municipality, it's a 50-50 split, unless you cite them under a town bylaw.
So truck traffic going through.
It's a $55 fine, which gets separated 27.50. That's $55 fine. Now, when you bring the truck team in, they go through that truck with a fine-tooth comb. They find a lot of things that even a regular trooper, according to Major Segru, who's the commanding officer out of the Danvers Barracks, he even said, I could send a trooper up there, but you really want the truck team because they are excellent. And we've had them there a few times. I've talked to them. We're going to try to get them back again. Unfortunately, we're not the only municipality that's requested their presence. They're a great team to come in, and you've seen them work up there. I mean, they did a tremendous job.
Now, can the selectmen up the 55 to say 200? 55, they're gonna just cut through there, I mean, 55.
Well, we've had discussion about creating a bylaw. The 55, that's a Massachusetts general law, so we would create a different bylaw which we could use to address that problem and other problems as well. And if we cite them under the town bylaw, then we could make it $100 and all of that money would get returned to the town.
Would you recommend that?
I would definitely recommend that.
Breen, can you,
As long as we're on that subject, if we were eventually to put a traffic officer through DOT school so that he could do DOT stops, how much of that money would come back to the town?
Well, again, it would depend, that type of law is very specific, and that comes from Mass General Law. I don't think any town has a bylaw specific to any of the truck exclusionary laws or anything like that. I mean, there's overweight, there's looking at how long a truck driver's been, driving the truck, and so that he would cite, but still 50% of it would return, and you'd still be having the effect that truckers obviously communicate to each other very well, and if they say that the trucks are getting stopped on Walnut Street, you would certainly mitigate that problem. You'll never end it, but you'll have a great effect on it.
I think it'd be a good discussion around town meeting, and also bringing in more, changing the bylaw, increasing the fine as a way of financing that position. I like that idea.
I do too.
To change the bylaw, do we need to go to town meeting, or can?
Bylaw requires town meeting.
Yeah, meeting, town meeting.
Yep. All right, so with that. So I'll amend my motion again to request the police chief reduce the civil service hiring from 2 down to 1, in that one that we're not taking from the civil service list, we then authorize you to immediately hire another officer.
Is that a new motion or an amendment to the original?
That was an amendment.
We have a second? Chief, that'll work for you?
Yes, I'll do everything I can to make it work.
And second that.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
So Chief, you can now advertise for a immediate transfer?
I'll have that on the CGIS website tomorrow.
And what's it, do you have someone from the civil service list now? Are you still working on that?
We do. We have somebody that we're looking at. I think we need to request another list.
Yep.
And then have that candidate come in and interview.
You still think you can get somebody in that September academy?
I think if we move quick enough, we can do it.
Okay, all right, well, thank you.
Jim.
I don't want to belabor this, but just so people understand, we had 2 vacancies. We asked for civil service list. We got, what, 8 names?
We got 8 names.
We got 8 names. Only 3 came in to sign.
Yep.
Of those 3, they didn't get a packet from the police, an application packet. Of those 3 that signed, 1 did not return the application. 1 turned back an incomplete application, leaving us only 1 out of the 8 that actually finished the application process. That we'd even then go on to the next level of the background checks and things like that. So it's not an automatic process when you ask for the list, because people want to be police their whole lives, and they wait and realize that being a stockbroker pays a lot more money, and they don't come in and sign a list.
Now, is there a new list coming out now, or?
I think there was a new list. There was a new exam, so I think we'll actually get a brand new list.
I'm not sure when that list will be certified, so
Yeah,
I think the
should be
current
sure.
list is still the list that we looked at before.
All right. Jim, can I ask you a question? Because I think the next part of this is important also, is that bylaw. Can we go through, what would the process be? Can we get that moving? Get language to look at that?
Yeah, I mean, I have to go back and look at what the process is for amending the bylaws, but normally you just need language. It has a hearing before the Board of Selectmen. Obviously, it goes to the FinCom and then town meeting. And council has to weigh in on it, but
Okay.
it's not a complicated process.
Okay, well, we got some gentlemen here from the Mass DOT that I'd like to speak with for a few minutes. I know it's getting late. Mr. Karas, we talked about that left turn signal coming out of Market Street, and the possibility of getting an arrow so you can take a left without playing chicken with the people coming down the ramp from 95 South.
Right, it's something we talked about, and we are taking a look at it now. If we go forward with that, the things that would have to happen is we'd have to change one of the signal housings overhead on the mast arm. We'd have to do some rewiring and reprogramming in the cabinet, and we'd also have to switch the pedestrian phase, which we switched a few months ago again to make it a protected pedestrian phase. We'd have to switch that to another phase, and the sum of it is it would increase the delay at the intersection. Again, we're balancing safety with capacity and efficiency. So it would definitely increase the safety, because the left turn would be going protected by itself, but it would back traffic up a little more than is currently backed up.
Well, I don't think there's anybody in the town of Linfield that's come out of that development that doesn't agree that that's a huge safety issue.
Right. I mean, the only other option we have is to try to give more green time. There's an advanced green coming down the ramp where they go straight and go left. We could try to give that more time and see if we could get everyone out of there before we let Market Street go, and then when they went to take a left, hopefully it'd be no one coming down the ramp, but we'd have to look at that and see if that would work.
It's the person that's coming down the ramp about 50 yards behind everybody else, and they step on the gas to make the light while
Right.
you're trying to take that left. And I don't know if you ever saw the picture, but we had a great picture of a car that got T-boned, tipped over, in that same exact circumstance. And that, you know, that's something we don't want to have happen again. So if you could really look into that. I think we also discussed the possibility of even getting it done in the near future. You said you might be able to work that on this year's budget. Is that still?
Yeah, the budget isn't a problem. If we find that we can do it and it will work, it's not a problem getting it done.
That'd be great. I'd appreciate that.
What about the signs on I-95 regarding trucks?
Those are in.
So
They're on
those
the half-mile advance guide signs for the exit on the right-hand side of the support of the structure. Those signs they're there both northbound and southbound.
Is it as you guys thought they should be, or the truck signs?
Yeah, I mean, I saw it for the first time, I think it was Saturday.
Yeah, so,
on the post.
okay.
And that's what we're looking for.
The exit coming off of 95 heading south, exiting onto Walnut Street, with that so long, it's awfully enticing to continue picking up speed. Have we thought about putting like a rumble strip in, much like there's a strip on the, when you're just crossing the Mystic Bridge, going into Chelsea, there's a rather long exit there and it's all downhill.
Right.
And about every, I don't know if it's 50 feet or whatever it might be, there's a little rumble to get the driver's attention that you should, really be slowing down now.
Yeah,
You think maybe something like that would be effective so that we don't have this excess enticement to
they are
pick up
effective.
speed instead of slowing down?
Right, they are effective, but what we found that they're very noisy, especially at night. And if you live close to those, you won't want them there.
Okay. Yeah. Joe?
Joe?
As long as we're talking about that intersection, and I agree with Phil, that's really dangerous. There aren't that many cars taking a left there, so the dedicated left wouldn't have to be that long. But there's one other problem there. That island, and I don't think it's your problem, I think it's Market Street's problem, that island that divides them is about 6 or 8 feet too short. When people come up from the Saugus side, turning a left into Market Street, they stop at the red light, and now there's traffic coming southbound, going towards Saugus. And instead of coming up and making a left, they come in at an angle. And now it's, can I get through this intersection before that oncoming traffic comes? And if that island was simply made 6 or 8 feet longer, so that people couldn't come at a 45-degree angle, that might do a lot to avoid some of the almost head-on collisions that go there going in the other direction.
Joe, that's the island coming down the Market Street?
Yeah, the one that's going
Yeah,
south.
the big, okay, all right.
It's just 6 or 8 feet longer.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of room there to cut across. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, those islands, when the intersection's designed, it's designed so that a truck that's in that left turn lane, when he makes that left turn, his back wheels won't be going over the island. They use turning templates when they do the geometric
So
design.
we have to relook at that to see if they can make it longer then.
They could relook at it, but it was probably designed the way it was supposed to be in the first place.
Great corner there.
The trucks are like 50 to 60 feet long.
That's all right, we'll make them go through 42.
Chief, which
The Wakefield women left. They left, we can say,
Chief, which intersection was the police car hit?
And if it turns out that they can't make that longer because of what you're saying, which I think they might be able to make it a little longer, Can the DPW put in those dotted white lines on the street? To say, hey, you're supposed to be turning in here, not over there.
Which would make it a traffic violation,
Yeah, which would make it a traffic violation.
clear traffic violation.
Right.
You're talking about the dotted lines that show you where to follow?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that could be done,
That's a much easier fix. That's a much easier fix than than extending the island. Yeah. And people tend to follow that, you know?
Dave and I were talking about the other day, we see it all the time. They just come flying across the front
Oh,
of your car.
and you stop, you go, you know,
Yeah.
thanks, buddy, I know, I see it.
But we also had an accident down there with the, case DOT's interested, where someone actually totaled a police cruiser. Maybe the chief could explain which intersection that was?
That was the same intersection as the traffic accident, which occurred at the Market Street and Walnut Street and 95 southbound. The vehicle that flipped over, there was personal injury. The officer it was a sergeant. He was facing Summer Street at the set of lights and proceeded through when the light turned green. In fact, the car in front of him went first through the green light, and the car coming off the ramp went through the red light, struck the officer. Fortunately, we had another officer over in the area of Country Club who witnessed the whole thing. Not that the officer that was in the accident couldn't have cited him, but it's obviously better if you have another officer there. So that person was cited, and we did get insurance money for that, so we've been reimbursed. Unfortunately, that cruiser was out of service for quite some time.
So, Mr. Karras, this is a real serious situation that we're trying to resolve here. I'm sure you understand the gravity of it.
No, we understand, and, you know, like I say, you can put as many signs up and make as many changes as you want, but if people don't obey the rules of the road and drive recklessly,
I think that's where the enforcement officers.
there's very little we could do.
That's why we need that extra policeman.
If you agree on the curb cuts for the chief, you go out there Friday and say, all right, this is exactly where I put these in, how soon can those get done?
I'd have to have our projects people do a little design for our maintenance staff, and then we have to have our maintenance contractor do them, probably a month to two.
Okay.
This summer, for sure.
They'll be done in the summer, great.
Yes.
Not in time for the traffic officer to be available.
Well, hopefully before, yeah, a little before. But he can still be there without those being there.
How long would it take to get the paint on the street?
Mike, that has to be done by the DOT?
It doesn't have to be done by us. If the town wants to do it, there'd be no problem. It's
Okay.
tough for us to get a whole...
We could slide down the table here and say, how fast could they get it done?
Well, you know what it is, we go out and we do miles and miles of roadway striping to get a whole crew up there to do, 50 feet of a few skips is
It's helped out at
it's
Salem Street
difficult.
by South Winfield, the way they've done it with the markings. I think it'll make a big difference.
I agree, I think they would help a lot, so.
Andrew, you think that's something we could put together from the town?
Yeah, we probably just want to bounce it off Mike to make sure we're putting down what they agree with, because there is some overlap of who's responsible for that intersection. We kind of struggle with the same issue. When we bring those guys in, it's tough to bring them in for 50 feet also.
Right.
We do have some striping coming up, so it is something we could probably look at. I just want to verify what type of paint is going down there, because we don't necessarily put down that same paint in the rest of the town. So whether it's epoxy or low VOC or something, but we can definitely look at that.
Okay, thank you.
Chief, to help policing with these intersections, do you have a working knowledge of a traffic basket? I think we talked about this at one of my other meetings. That's where you basically line the intersection so that if you shouldn't enter the intersection unless you can exit the intersection.
That's the law.
But now it becomes visual so that when you get in, you know you need to get out.
It's an on-road sign or something.
Right, but it's on the ground. And it makes it highly visual so that people get the concept in addition to a sign. Do you think something like that would help with these few intersections?
I think it might help a person who's more apt to obey speed limit signs and traffic signs, but I think the issue with that, I think Mr. Karas spoke about this before, is those fade very quickly. But if it's something that can be done in a cost-effective manner, I would be in support of that.
Well, so what does DPW think about that?
What area are we referring to specifically?
The intersection of Salem Street and Walnut Street, and then Market Street, 95 South Exit, and Walnut Street.
And what was the intent of the marking?
The marking is to give a visual aid to a driver to understand where their car should not be when the light turns red.
All right. So part of that, I mean, that question was looked at a couple times, and it was also addressed, I think, both by Mass DOT and us, and I think Beta. And I don't want to put words in Mike Karas's mouth either, but the majority of individuals that looked at it recommended against adding more striping to the road for additional confusion. In addition to the maintenance factor even on our end, whether we're maintaining it or Mass DOT would become an issue. I personally don't think it's a great idea, but if it's something that the board wants us to look at, we can definitely look at it.
Look, there's a taxpayer that lives over on Hidden Valley that initially brought this to my attention. And he said this was added into an intersection in East Boston, which I'm sure has far more traffic than we'll ever have. And he said it was very successful. Just passing along what he informed me about.
Right, I think I was at that meeting also, but once again, the majority of people that have looked at it, the recommendation had come back that it was not a great option, and it adds quite a bit of confusion to the roads. It doesn't mean it can't be done.
In New York City, they do it, but the key to it is, it's don't block the blocks, it's sit right on the street. But the key to it is, if you do, a police officer's gonna come and give you a ticket, because there is something. A very big ticket, because they have some kind of regulation, a bylaw or something, but that's an offense.
Do we have any more questions for the Mass DOT or the Beta
No, I just wanted to
Engineering?
make a comment.
Rich, go ahead, Rich.
I think that it's, that type of striping, it can be a pain in the neck, and it can be confusing to some degree. But I think sometimes we need to help people with their thinking, okay, while they're driving. And that's really what it's all about. We know what to do, people know what to do, but sometimes they don't get it. So let's do everything we can do for safety.
So one of the recommendations that did come out that was kind of in tune with that was to add the additional do not block intersection signs that do not exist there right now, and that was in part of Beta's report, which will be going up also.
Can you put on it, how much fine is for doing it? Can you put, do not block intersection fine $200 or whatever it is? Is that possible?
They actually have that in Boston, Joe. I actually have a picture of a sign that has that. If you get caught in the intersection, it's $150.
Some people will step on it. Get out.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, real quick, most of the emphasis has been on Walnut and Salem getting through that intersection. But going down south on Walnut in the morning, many mornings it's backed all the way up, at least to Sparhawk, from Water Street down in Saugus.
I'm in that every morning.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now, and the blessing is it moves fairly quickly.
Yeah.
But Walnut and Salem, you look at the backup, and it's pretty balanced. It is what it is. Water and Walnut down there, it seems that it's backed all the way up Walnut towards here, but there's very little trying to get either on Walnut, on Water down to Wakefield.
Everybody's taking a left.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
everybody's taking a left. It just
Yeah.
doesn't seem like that light there is doing everything it could be doing. It doesn't seem well balanced at that.
Yeah, it should have a longer
Yeah.
green to get people through. Yeah, yeah. We can talk to Saugus about that. Or is that Mass DOT?
No, that's not.
That's Saugus, yeah. Yeah, yeah, we can talk to them about that and see if we can get it.
Mr. Chairman.
We tweaked a little.
Excuse me.
Yes,
One
sir.
other thing I've noticed is in the morning, and I'm sure that people will be nodding their heads. Walnut Street, heading southbound to the Market Street intersection. Vehicles that want to turn into Market Street are unable to do so because there's no right turn lane. Now, I know
Right.
there's really no easy solution here because it's gonna involve moving telephone poles and,
Mhm.
but the problem is that those vehicles, when they ultimately do make the right-hand turn, they're blocking the traffic up. That light sequence stops rather quickly, and now the traffic in the morning gets backed up all the way past Alexandra and towards West Way. So I know there's no easy solution there, but that's a problem that happens every morning. I'm sure that you've seen that.
Yeah, I never understood why they didn't put a right turn lane there. It didn't seem like it would be that big of a inconvenience to move those things around. But, you know, I think everybody coming from your side experiences that same problem.
Right.
You know, but that's, you know, is that a town issue or is that a Market Street issue? I mean, or is it, I mean, that's part of our, or does that get into the Mass DOT land that we have to be concerned with? Where does that all start?
I'm
Do we
not
know?
sure. I think some of it has gone back to the developer. That's how we named. They were able to name Market Street, or maybe it's the towns. But there's a big detention basin back there,
Yeah.
and that's also where we're going to put the cutout for the police cars. So if you widen, put a right turn lane, then that disappears.
Oh,
I'm not sure it was even
The
feasible.
cutout's right there, Dave? Is that what we're talking about?
It's by the sign where you make the right turn.
On the other side, right. But we're coming down from Linfield Center, taking the right in there.
That's what I'm talking about.
And where's the cutout gonna be?
When you take the right, there's the Market Street sign on the right?
Yes.
Yeah, it would be right there.
Oh, right there, okay.
We discussed having it in the other location, which is on the north side of 95. But that area has been changed when they redesigned that so that there's a significant drop-off, and for us to back a cruiser in there, we just couldn't make it work, so we had to move it down to the other location.
Okay.
But, you know.
You park the cruiser right in front of the Market Street sign?
So you block the sign and the flowers and everything, like right there?
No, we'd be over off to the side, more towards Country Club, a little bit back. But they wouldn't see us coming down the ramp, but we'd be right, they'd see us as soon as they hit the intersection.
So you're right
But-
after the pole, you're kinda tucked into the right.
Right in that area there.
Okay.
But that's exactly the area would be perfect to do a right turn lane for those
Exactly
people,
right.
which would help.
Except there's gonna be a police car in the way now.
Well, we can certainly move the location.
Any more questions for any of our guests here tonight? No? Well, if no more, I'd like to thank Mass DOT and Beta Engineering for coming. I appreciate it. And our Chief of Police and DPW. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you all.
With that going, I take a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thanks, folks.